do, I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same. Cause that's what it takes.
Hey guys, happy Friday, June 7th. What a damn week we had. We're going to kick back, have a beer, have a smoke, answer some of your questions, kind of do a little bit of brain share, and I want to hear your guys' questions and thoughts. I see Mediocre is trying to come in and out. He's out of town, so I don't know that he has the best location, the best reception for his internet. But we'll see if he gets on. And Sparky, welcome. Thank you for stepping in to help co-host tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'll stay on as long as I can.
I appreciate that. How much time you think you got?
You know what? It's all I don't have a wife. I have a beautiful girlfriend. So if she knocks on my door, then I'll probably be out because she won't.
Okay.
But I think you understand. You have a little more running time with getting away with it than I think I will. So.
All right. So Sparky is a bond trader, and I'm just a dumb YouTuber. So everything we're talking about is opinion. It's going to be some of my analysis of this play. I did a video this morning going over the filings from GameStop, the prospectus, the ATM. I did a video. I've already plugged all of the Q1 numbers from GameStop in their 8K this morning into my spreadsheet, and got all of our ratios. But things are going to change into next quarter with all this cash that they're raising, so we can talk about that. We'll talk about trading. We'll talk about buy and hold because, I know you guys do both. I really don't care which one you do. I'm not here to give you any advice about how to trade, but certainly will tell you what I did. And I'm mostly a value investor. I like profitable companies. I like blue chip companies, but I'm also a momentum trader like many of you. I like short squeezes. I like big run up plays, but I try to make sure that I limit my risk on those, and that we have, try and get the absolute best entry, the lowest price entry, which is why I talk about fundamental value a lot on even these meme stock plays, or read the filings so you can know what the company's planning on doing. We want to get a good entry, and then we want to take a good exit. And that's always the biggest trick on these, getting a good entry, knowing what is a good entry, and then having the cojones to punch that sell button and lock in the gains. Because really at the end of every week, I want to be celebrating with you guys. I don't want to be, sitting here having you upset because you got rug pulled by a CEO that needed to dilute, or thought that they needed to dilute to get their company in position for their next phase of life.
And that's, Tony, if I could just jump in for a second. I think that it's obviously really easy to buy a stock. You can watch it, and you get a little dip. But all the years I've been doing it, it's very hard to have the commitment to sell it. Or at least sell some portion of it. I think that's what you want to talk about a little tonight, is that might be 70% of the discipline to making money, more than the 30% of picking something good that you like the numbers and like the timing and you buy it.
Yep. I try and, reinforce that in my Discord. I try not to be overbearing. Like I rarely give general instructions, not instructions, but general advice to anyone about what I'm personally doing. But I will drop hints if they can read between the lines. And I let them know yesterday that in after hours, my brackets were already getting hit on GameStop. In after hours yesterday, I started selling. The highest price I got was $60. And, I didn't sell everything. I too believed that there was a probability, not 100% probability, but there was a probability that if GameStop didn't do something silly like drop an ATM in the morning, that we could have a massive continued up day, especially with Roaring Kitty coming on his live stream. That was enough probability for me to keep some money in the play. And I did.
One thing you might want to touch on, Tony, because you're a little more versed in this probably than I am, that there's a lot of anger that, GME management dropped this on, and they dropped earnings first and then they did it. Now, I'm pretty sure that, if they're going to do an ATM and you have earnings in 3 days, I'm pretty sure they would be required to
give me 1 second and we can talk about that, because I just want to finish up my trading. So I had sold 30% of my position yesterday. I had bought it in the middle of the week, when we were in those high 20s, and I wanted to lock in those gains because I didn't know how high it would go, and I hate leaving money on the table if I'm wrong. So the rest I let ride till this morning when I woke up, and I woke up and the very first thing I saw was a dilution announcement. I ran in here, started punching the sell button, and dumped the rest of my position around $43. So all of my shares I got out with a healthy profit. Not as much as I wanted. I would have liked to more than doubled my money on 100% of what I had bought in this week. That would have been a beautiful week, because all 100% of my meme stock money was in GameStop this week.
But don't forget the run from like 46 to 60 something was all after markets. It wasn't even during. If you would have had a limit order in or something, you wouldn't have gotten filled unless you specifically put an aftermarket, fillable order in it. I don't know they ever want to do that, to be honest. So
we're going to talk about the prospectus and the 8K with the earnings. And I know that another question you guys are going to have is now what's going to happen next week and what's going on with the actual dilution. So to get to the point that Mark was just bringing up, they dropped this prospectus in the morning, 75 million shares. And with those, when they do a prospectus like this, if there's materially different information or things that investors need to know, especially for a large ATM like this, they need to provide updated financial due diligence or the earnings like we saw, especially if they had to give it to the sales agent to get the ATM done. They got to provide it to us too. So that's why you got the full earnings today, a couple days early. It was to allow them to do the prospectus and be in full legal SEC compliance.
Yeah,
would you agree with that, Mark?
In the past is instead of pre-announcing full numbers, when I've seen this, if somebody knew they were right on top of the numbers, they still probably could have just released a statement saying, "Hey, we're releasing earnings next week. We expect to be right on top of what the market anticipates," and I think that would fly too. Obviously, revenue down 25 or 29% is not in line with what was expected. So that's what.
Yeah, we're going to get to those earnings in a minute, because I'm hearing a lot of what I get the temptation to be exuberant, to be hopeful, but there's just blatant misunderstanding of the finances, Mark. People calling this Q1 earnings bullish. The best thing GameStop has going for it right now, and I'm not knocking GameStop, the best thing they have going for it right now is a beautiful balance sheet.
Right? They got a war chest.
Yeah, they're going to have probably at least $4 billion.
So what
and
really
almost no debt
is trying to evaluate what the number of shares they have or will have when they sell this is okay. What's that worth?
It's going to be 426 million shares. I think I have that.
Well, they'll do what? What did they do before 20?
I'm including. I'm reading from the prospectus.
They did 45 just in the last couple of weeks, right? And they're doing 75. So
the new share count will be 426 million if they fully take out these 75 million shares. So, and I just did, back of the envelope book value calculation, book value per share with this new. Let's just estimate $2 billion. Let's be conservative.
Yeah, that's fine.
$2 billion. It'll be about $10 book. $10 book per share will be,
which is actually fantastic. If
it's beautiful.
$7 of it's cash, that's usually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you got a $10 book, you got no debt, you got $4 billion at least in cash. Let's start off with what is great about what GameStop is doing, what management is doing to set themselves up for whatever their next strategy is. Here's where I see the financial analysis breaking down on other channels. They will tell you that the price should be automatically 5 times book, because if I look at any other company on the S&P, they're trading at 5 times book. They're trading at 10 times book. That, unfortunately, is a very naive way to analyze stocks and not factually correct.
What they're really doing is trading at 20 times earnings, which
exactly. Say that again, Mark.
I said, the average S&P company probably trades at anywhere between 18 to 25 times earning PE ratio. And when you that's the first step. And then you back into, okay, does it make sense to the book value? If it's 4 or 5, if it's,
this is why I love you, Mark. You fucking get it. You must be in the bond industry or something.
Yeah, I'm not even a stock guy. This is 100% how a bond analyst credit would look at this and say, okay.
Yeah, guys, I want you to hear what we're saying here. Anyone on another channel that's telling you that this stock should be $50 because they see other companies trading at 5 times book, absolutely 0% knows what the hell they're talking about. Companies trade on a multiple of earnings, which is profits per share, earnings per share. And that is the biggest problem I've had with GameStop's valuation, is not the balance sheet. It's that they have lack of earnings. A couple pennies annual earnings may as well be zero. Wall Street's not going to give you anything extra for that. And they're not going to give you anything.
Acquisitions,
$4 billion. They're not going to give you, Mark, any extra for $4 billion on the balance sheet than book value. Right? Because there's no demonstrated profits yet.
Yeah, and it's obviously you'd rather have it than not have it, but it's all going to come down to, if they're going to try to, Ryan Cohen isn't a dumb guy. If he's going to turn it into a little Berkshire Hathaway, that's awesome. But by the way, you can't do that in a year. That's a longer. What you hope is they make 1 or 2 really smart acquisitions, or a bunch of smaller ones with a good one that fairly immediately reflect that they were good buys, and then you'll start getting some valuation on your book, on both your book value and hopefully earnings.
The first thing that I look at, Mark, is what is the multiple to earnings?
Right.
What are the profits?
It's hard to have a PE when you don't have them. So
right, and then once I do that with the company, then I might compare it to book. I might compare that price to book value, but that you certainly don't start there.
Right.
As a value investor, where would you look at book value? You would look at it and like Keith Gill did back in 2020. The market cap in 2020 was under the book value. For a value investor, if you think the company can turn around, that's gold right there. And I have a few more that I have on my list that I'm going to be telling you guys about in the coming weeks as I finish up my due diligence. I mean, I got sometimes to go through 100 companies to find one where market cap is below book and the balance sheet isn't a wreck and the company isn't a wreck. But like GameStop was one in 2020, and we can find others. But unless market cap is below book, I don't really care about book value.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you said. When you're talking about value stuff, you're not generally buying it for a quick flip. I mean, it's nice when Rowan Kitty bought GameStop and it went up 500 times in 6 months or something. But generally, you're buying something like that, and in 5 years, you're happy you did, because it goes up 300 or 400% over a extended period of time as it improves. There isn't a big jump in that, but
now let's take an aside, because I see some of the comments here, and I hear you, especially like Roadrunner. He says a lot of us know this. I know a lot of you know this. And I'm a momentum trader just like you guys. I love short squeezes just like you guys. Let's not get it twisted. My gripe is not with myself, the way that we momentum trade on risky plays, the way that we speculate. I love to do it. You love to do it. My gripe is with YouTubers who call themselves experts in the finances of the company and then do not properly to explain it to people who don't understand it. That is my gripe. Whatever y'all do with your trading, if you understand the finances, God bless. And I'm glad that you do. And we still take risky bets sometimes. There's a lot of stocks I bought that have no earnings, and I buy them only for a couple days because I think they're going to squeeze. And I don't even look at the financials. But when people are on YouTube acting like they know what they're talking about, and they clearly don't, that bothers me, because when you say it with conviction, people that don't know any better will believe you. And that is a big problem on YouTube.
And you point this out a lot, that there's nothing wrong with taking shots, especially momentum things. Hey, this thing's going up. The discipline comes in where if you've owned it for 3 months and nothing's happened, maybe it even hadn't even gone down, but it's never spiked and nothing has come out to show that it will, you gotta have the discipline to take some off and go find another play or take it all off. If your reason for doing it was momentum and maybe a squeeze or maybe something happened and it doesn't happen in a couple months time, certainly you gotta at least look at it again and say, do I still want to be in this? Or what's my reason for staying in this now? Or do I, it's easy to lower cost basis, but do you want to? I see that all the time. You probably do too. Oh, I'm lowering my cost basis. Well, are you getting more capital into a play that's not going the way you think than you should? I mean, people forget that a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, just as a second level of explanation, because people get so mad at me for talking about the fundamental or the fair price value of GameStop. I'm not saying that's not a price target for me. I'm not saying GameStop's going to $7 or $10. I'm telling you how Wall Street is looking at it.
Right.
So that when it's trading at 50 and Wall Street's saying it's worth 7 or 10, you can understand why they're motivated to push it down and how far it could go if things got really, really bad for us as traders. And then you kind of use that with your gut and your expertise, hopefully, if you're a momentum trader, to say, all right, what's the, considering like this week, I was buying in at 27.28. How much do I want to risk? Because I'm already at 3 times book.
Well, not only how much you want to risk, but again, I keep saying discipline, having the discipline to say, okay, if it gets to this level, this level, and this level, I'm going to sell.
Exactly.
If it goes to 500, I still made my 100, 200, 300%. I know I laughed with you at one point on NVIDIA. I bought, I didn't buy, love to have bought the farm on it, but I bought it when it got down to, I bought some at 150. I had a level of 125. I bought some. I had buy orders down to 100 and I didn't get. And I sold it at 250 and 350 and I think 400. Well, I never got, you look at it now and think, God, I never got the 1,000, but I looked at it, that's a real company, and said, this is undervalued for what they got going on. This has just got smoked. And I took probably on average 200, 2.5 times out. Well, you go on and go find another one. And I still have, everybody that's got ETFs got the SPY or something. They have plenty of NVIDIA exposure. If they have QQQs, they got 8 or 9% exposure in that anyway. Same with Microsoft and Apple. It was just something where I said, well, I want to add this. This looks cheap, so I'm going to add it. And that's one I would have been willing to hold for a year, which I think is about how long I had it.
I always try and have, like if I had NVIDIA back then, Mark, I always have a price target where I say, if it hits this, I'm going to get out, and then I don't worry about it. If it
that's I guess what I'm saying. I literally had the sell orders in. I didn't even have to think about it. I had a sell order at 250 and 300 and 400. Unfortunately, the 400, was only the last 50 shares or something, which was still a nice trade. And it went up after that. Yeah, I felt bad for about 3 days, and then I went, well, geez, it did exactly what I hoped it was going to do. There's no reason to. The worst thing that happens is those things go up, and I feel bad for retail, really, and I'm sure you do too. Just in a play like this, where GameStop did exactly what you'd hope to do. If you bought it at 20 or owned it at 10 and were suffering with it, and it spiked to 50 twice now in the last 3 weeks. You certainly have, even if you didn't trade it, if you owned it a while ago and just were praying to get out, I feel bad for the people that not only didn't sell some, but maybe bought some at 40. I mean,
there are a lot of people that believe in the naked short and the synthetic theories, and I'm not here to talk about those or argue or dispute those. That if you want to have those beliefs, you can have those beliefs. I don't trade on those beliefs. I gave it a shot. I gave it a shot with AMC from 2021 to 2023, and that didn't work out so well. I had made a lot of money in June of 2021 and bought some more shares in at too high of a price and gave some of that money back. I was lucky to get out of AMC, still, keeping a lot of what I made back in 2021, but I gave some back trying the whole, let's see how this whole synthetic buy and hold thing works. And, once I changed my outlook on things around the end of 2023, said, I'm not doing that anymore. This buy and hold stuff, even if it's correct, we're not winning. I just treat every play like any other stock. If it hits my target, I'm going to take the money. And if it falls back down, I'll buy back in.
Even going back to what your strategy was today. Now, there was a specific reason, obviously, you sold the rest of it in the 40s today because they were dropping a share offering. But let's say they hadn't done that. If you sold 20, you bought it at 20. If you sold 25% at 40 and 25% at 50 and 25% at 60, and the market dumped today and you still had 20 or 25%, it's free money because you've already taken over 100% out. And even if it goes back down to 10, that's something you can hang on to, and it's fine. I mean, you didn't lose anything because you were disciplined on it. You can make a decision later what you want to do.
Dan is asking about the whale teeth. That is, let me see if I can pull up this pattern here that he's talking about.
He's looking for the what?
The whale teeth. Let me put up a chart on the screen for everybody.
You're beyond me. I don't think anybody talks about whale teeth.
I know.
I'm going to rely on you on that.
We also call them, Mark, the crime candles.
Yeah, I'm not a candle. I should learn that stuff. I try to do it, but
I'm trying to get my Weeble screen up here.
When I don't have an actual job and I can spend all day looking at this stuff.
Let's do this.
The technical student, because I think that stuff is fascinating.
We're talking about these three big spikes, right, Dan, in after hours, when it's trading in the 20s and you see boom, boom, boom up to 60. Yeah. I'm just going to tell you my guess because I see this often, and I can't tell you that I'm 100% correct, but it seems a logical explanation for me, and I always look for logic. These were trades from earlier in the day that, for whatever reason, when it was trading at $63 in pre-market, got hung up in the system and hit the tape at the end of the day and after hours.
Or they could be, because I know, and I should be quiet because I don't, but there's
no, go ahead. I don't know for sure.
No, I was going to say, I think it's even more likely, and I'm not a stock person, but you do have, everybody always talks about order imbalance and, buy and sell on close and matching that up. And it's actually very likely. I think it's likely those, that's basically a market order. That's the problem with it. That's why I don't think you can really look at that. And, DG for one, I probably shouldn't mention any initials, but, they're real big on this order imbalance. Well, you can go through the S&P, you can go to Google order imbalance, and you can see it's out there on every stock.
What we could also do, if you're really, really curious about it, is pull up a time and sales report and look at this 1 minute time frame.
And that's a good idea too. And
see if you can pick out the trade. What was the trade size?
And it could be, and it very well, like you said, it I don't know operationally what they're required to do. I mean, I was in clearing 25 years ago, but when I started, but that was a very different time than now. When you'd post equity trades like against convertibles or something, you might be 100% right. It may have been a trade at 2:30 that they just never posted, so they did. And what's dangerous about after hours, and I'm sure you'll back it up, that's the Wild West. I mean, it's great when you can take advantage of it like you do and sell some, but you got to remember that's almost all retail volume. There's no market makers. There's no rules. There's no halts. Everybody gets excited about that, but that's, you don't want to go put a market order in after hours because you don't know where it's going to get filled and what they're going to match it up against. And that's this 24-hour trading, I think will probably happen everywhere, but until it becomes much more systematically even, where market makers are making markets after hours, even if the rules are different. It's not. How many times in after hours? I think it was twice that GME ran. Well, I know that 2 days ago when the Roy and Kitty thing was announced, it went from 40 to 60s.
They're so easy to run during after hours because we don't have to worry about halts.
Well, not only that, but it's all buys. If it's all retail and there's no sellers, and you're just okay, you see the screen, you're tapping on your, and I don't even know who has the after hours stuff. I actually don't have it on my Schwab account because and the reason I don't have that, what's interesting is I don't have it. If you have that, then they could, if you have a limit order, and I do a lot of limit orders. I don't do options. I do a lot of limit orders. Like you say, I'll have something. And well, if you have after hours turned on,
my broker will,
they can fill you after hours.
All my brokers will only let me do limit orders after hours.
Well, no, and that's good, but that's what I'm saying is, but even with that, I don't know that I want an order hanging out because some of the best trades I ever had is where I had a limit buy or sell in, and it just didn't quite get filled maybe right before the close. And then it opens the next day up 20% because something happened, but I didn't get it because it got filled 3 seconds after the market, closed and I got filled at 20 cents over the close. Well, that's not what you want. I shouldn't say there's no rules, but there's a lot fewer rules in after hours. And you should take advantage of it if you have it, but you shouldn't. I don't think you should be buying big positions. It's great for selling. I don't think you should be loading the boat because you just don't know what it's.
I want to talk about the halts, Mark, because
I'll let you do that because
look, guys, I'm probably not going to tell you what you want to hear because I'm just a black and white logic guy. And I mean, I'll put a link to the regulation. There's a limit up, limit down regulation with all sorts of math in it. Exactly how these limit up, limit down halts happen. How many pages is this document?
While you're looking through this,
it's 40. I'm not going to read it. I'll put a link it's from FINRA. It's 40 pages. But I just want to show you this table, which is a summary. And guys, this is programmed into the exchange.
Yeah, it's mechanical. Nobody decides.
There's nobody trying to rip you off with fake halts. If the price moves, it's gonna halt. It's a volatility halt.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'll add to that is I saw it all over today, and I had people attacking me. Oh, look at all the trading halts today. It killed us. No, just like maybe it slows you down on the way up. Today, the halts were to protect, slowed it down on the way down. I mean, without that in there, the stock could have been at 8 today.
Without that in there, high frequency trading machines could have taken this thing down to $15
or $8. I mean, if there's just no rule, it's the same thing. It's in there for a reason, and it does it both up and down.
I want you to hear what I'm saying. You don't have to like it, but I want you to consider it over the weekend. Like, what would happen if machines were allowed to trade this thing with no halts and to give people a pause and to give the market makers a chance to make sense of all the orders coming in? You literally could have been run down to an ungodly low number in a matter of minutes. That's why these circuit breakers were added to the system. And you want to go become an expert, read that 40-page FINRA document. And even I've read it a half dozen times, and it's still complicated because of the way that they calculate where does the 5 minutes start.
Right.
If people look at a candle on a chart. Well, I see this candle, and 5 candles later, that wasn't exactly 5%. You're not looking at the computer on the exchange that is marking, the exact rolling 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever the fuck the time is.
Yeah.
So we'll get close by looking at a chart, but the computer on the exchange is throwing the circuit breaker.
Well, I wonder, and the reason for that, what happens, and it's maybe a little different. I'm old enough that my first job was at a bank, and we were in the American Stock Exchange in Chicago, and our windows actually looked at the floor. And when you would have a halt, even back 25 years ago, you literally would see the group of market makers get together, and they're matching up where the price should be, and it would reopen. Now that doesn't happen because you could shoot a gun through the trading floor now. Everything's electronic, but it's basically the same thing. They stop it, no trades printed, and they let the buys and sells compile. So when they open it, it's in as an orderly fashion as possible. And sometimes it still isn't, and then they halt it again. 5 minutes later. That's still done especially for retail protection, even if they don't think it is. It actually is.
Neil says the halts can be manipulated. Maybe they can. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. I'm just going to be honest. I know they're programmed in. I can't do much about somebody manipulating the system. We've been manipulated for 3 years in every which way imaginable.
Manipulated like LeBron holding his knee and getting when they don't have a timeout, so they stop the game and let him rest for a minute.
I tell you what I do, guys. When a halt happens, whether it's a limit up or a limit down, I just close my eyes and pray for 5 minutes. I worry zero about it because there's nothing I can do about it. There are bigger forces at work. I know that they're programmed in. Could they be smart enough to overcome the built-in programming? Maybe so, but what am I going to do about it? What's up, Corex? I thought you got kidnapped by somebody wearing a popcorn suit. I hadn't heard from you all day. Do you want me to send you an invite? But you got to be nice. You got to be nice if you come on. We got a lot of people trying to process what the fuck happened today. He said he got suspended from Twitter. Oh my God. Damn. Well, I don't have any other way to contact you, so I don't know what.
That's right, Corex. I'm being Tony's antagonist.
I could drop you a link in this chat here, I guess.
That's what I need is a cigar. I got plenty of drink going. I need a cigar, although
I need to do more evening live streams because I got 3 boxes of cigars piled up over here. I slowed down on my evening live streams because of all the nut jobs out there, and it just wasn't worth the headaches and the hassle of dealing with.
I took the heat off you today, Tony. They were all attacking me this on YouTube, so that's probably why your feed didn't look too bad.
Corex, let's see if this works here. Hang on one second. Okay, so we went through the prospectus, we went through halts, we went through my trading, we went through why I'm upset at other YouTubers. I think they're good. I think they're good people. I think they mean well. I think they think that they know more than they actually know, and I don't think they have bad intentions necessarily. They're just I wish, that they were good people that I could have a conversation with and really explain how to do analysis on a stock. But some of them in particular, the loudmouth ones aren't really good people.
I'll if you're looking for a little change in subject, I'll ask you a question because you probably know this more than I.
Yeah, go ahead. And guys, drop your questions in here too.
I saw a lot today about DRS, direct registered shares.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, and this is my opinion on this, is first of all, I don't think it would ever cause a squeeze. I mean, I suppose in theory, if you got 90% of the shares DRS, then if it was 20% short, they wouldn't be able to borrow them because it is true they can't borrow those. But I was reading the FINRA thing today because I want to make sure I was talking about the same thing. The problem with DRS is it's when you have spikes like this that sometimes only last a day or so, you don't call them and click a button and sell your shares.
Yeah, nope.
I think there's a couple steps you have to go to, including you might have, because they're not in your broker's name, they're in your name. They're not what they used to call street name. I don't know if that's what it's called anymore.
Yeah, it's still
you might have to like literally send them a signed and validated bond. It used to be a bond power, maybe, or I'm not sure what they call it now, but you might have to send them something physically to get your shares available to be delivered and sold. And not that you couldn't do that in a day or two, but that means you can't go click a button on TD and sell them.
That means when it drops 40% like it did today, that you just
or it goes up 50% and you're sitting there going, God, I want to sell, but they're not, they're sitting,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I understand why people do it, but it definitely limits your ability to act quickly, I think. And somebody tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Here's my take on it, Mark, and I got a long history with DRS because I've always
that's why I brought it up.
I've always only said one thing: do whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you want a DRS, DRS. If you don't want a DRS, don't DRS. I also said it's not going to be a topic that I push as a narrative, because I did my own research for myself and I identified some of those same concerns that you have. I also, in my opinion, for myself, identified what I saw as a very clunky company, a very clunky website, a very clunky process. And I had, for myself, my opinion, a high level of concern that I wouldn't be able to exit a play in a mad rush for the exits during a squeeze. And I want the ability to punch a button and be out in 2 seconds.
No, and that's where I was going with that. I wasn't talking about it in terms of squeezes or anything else, but clunky. I think clunky is an excellent adjective.
And here's the thing, Mark. People took my position, what I just explained to you, and said Tony DeNaro is against DRS. Tony DeNaro's trash talking anybody who's for DRS.
Because it has to be black or white.
Yeah, they're just complete pathological liars, because there's 3 years of history of me talking about DRS, and my position has always been constant. Do whatever you want. I don't care, but I'm not going to talk about it. And the fact that these little nimrods, I wouldn't get behind them and support their little idea. They turned it into a whole hate Tony DeNaro campaign. And, I can't worry about dipshits like that. I said what I said. The public record is there. And I really don't care what you do.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
I'm not a big media star like the two of you guys are. I just
all you have
to do is look at it yourself. And like I said, FINRA has it right on there. It tells you exactly how it is. Tells you exactly what the process to undo it so you can sell them. And
correct. What is
look at that and say, I can't push a button and sell it or buy it. So what's
correct? Based on recent legal proceedings in the last year, what is one let's talk good about DRS for a second.
Yes.
What is one very strong benefit that we identified?
You're going to definitely get your postcard first.
You are going to get your postcards first.
It's in your name. They'll mail it directly to you.
Yeah. Versus if you're, holding your shares in your broker, you're a beneficiary, a beneficial owner. Mm-hmm. The broker is the owner of the shares. You're the beneficial.
Well, that was the big problem that happened with. I can't remember what his name was. He was trying to sue AMC to get, I think it was 220 discovery in the Delaware Court of Chancery, and they were like, "Okay, prove that you're a shareholder." And he's like, "Well, you should be on my records." It's like, all we see is the brokers and the DRS people. Who the fuck are you? And so he had his brokerage records, and they got that cleared up. But there's this misunderstanding that like AMC knows who the fuck you are if you have your shares at Robinhood or whatever.
Yeah.
All they see is we got 40 brokers and they have 3 million accounts. And I see AMC mislabel that as 3 million retail shareholders.
Yeah.
I would downrate that number, because many of us have multiple accounts, and that might be 3 million account holders and 800,000 shareholders.
You got like an IRA and a regular brokerage account. That way you can get tax advantage benefits from some of your positions.
So the other thing, Sparky, about the DRS, some of these people say, well, that's okay. It's okay if I can't sell them or it's clunky because those are my forever shares.
And that's fine.
And that's fine.
Right.
I say the
fine.
same thing.
A little bit more sinister along that route. I think it's kind of by design that like it keeps you stuck in the system. If it's really hard and clunky for you to get rid of your shares and you're a member of these like cult groups, then it's definitely to the advantage to make it as hard as possible, because humans are, and I say all of us are nothing but lazy sometimes. And if it's hard to do something, we are less likely to follow through on doing it. So DRS keeps the cult members in line.
Again, all I can say, and then I think we could probably move on to the next thing. Having, in 1988, when I started in the investment business, it was in the clearing room of a bank at the stock exchange, and it was very apparent that stock used to trade with, you'd have your certificate and you'd have the medallion stamp bond power, and that would run over you. If Manny Hanny is where it was sold, you'd have somebody physically run it over and hand it to them. And the whole reason DTC exists, and for all the people that pick on that, the whole reason it exists is you could never trade 100 billion shares a day under the old system. It just would never happen. It just, and that's why it used to be T+5 too, and not T+1 like it is today.
I see Manuel and Anya asking or talking about the same topic. Why did they dilute? And Manuel said,
because they could.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's always the easiest part of,
Manuel said every company dilutes when the share price is grossly overvalued. I want to give everybody a chance to talk about that, but I also want to tout my video again that I made for you guys a year ago after seeing this happen over and 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 over in every retail play. And people always act surprised. Why is this happening? Why are they diluting? Where's all this dilution coming from? This is a little comedy video I made for you guys. It's called the CEO Handbook, but the material is 100% serious. And if you have a good sense of humor, you will learn why. Why do they dilute? A, because they can. B, because they need to. And C, if they can't, they're going to figure out a way to do it. Those are chapters.
Everyone learned that.
Yeah, that's chapters 1, 2, and 3 in a nutshell. If they can't, they will figure out a way to do it. And I want you to hearken back to GameStop 2 weeks ago, where it took them 4 days. They weren't ready. He wasn't ready. Ryan wasn't ready.
Well, Tony, you and I talked about that when AMC first hit the sell button, that we were, I think, both kind of surprised they didn't have it teed up and ready to go on the first spike, whatever the first week.
None of these companies were anticipating this, but this time Ryan was ready.
Yeah.
And guys, so to get to Anya's question, why did they do it? This is a beautiful question, Anya. Thank you. And you guys can comment in the chat too. Here's the deal. I've said this over and over. I'm going to talk about AMC for 1 second, and then we'll get to Ryan Cohen and GameStop. AMC is diluting because they have negative working capital. They've got debt they need to pay off. We did a live stream with Sparky a week ago where we talked about the steps they need to take to refinance that subordinated 2026 debt, the 10-12 pick toggle, and then they'll work on the term loan, maybe later, a year from now. But they got to pay that debt off, and they got to get to a point where they can restructure. Right. And in the meantime, they got to keep working capital, and they're burning cash. It's not at a profitable level yet of box office. So that's why he's diluting. It's not to kill your squeeze. It's not because he's evil. It's not because he hates you. He's doing his damn job to not file Chapter 11. Now, moving over to Ryan Cohen, similar, but not as bad of a story here, right? They don't have debt. They just got annually profitable, but only marginally.
Operationally profitable.
I mean, a couple pennies on the income statement is meaningless to Wall Street. And exactly right, Corex. Operationally, they're not profitable. the income came from interest on their treasuries. So the business is not generating a profit. They got a little bit of bump from interest.
And they're still in their transition
The
process.
flip side of this whole thing, Tony, just so people understand that it goes both ways, is there's a lot of times when you see profitable, especially very profitable companies announce share buybacks. That happens when the management of a profitable company, especially if they're not using debt, but they're using cash to buy back stock, like, I don't know,
have nothing
Apple
else
would
to
never do that,
invest
but that just
into.
as an example, there's a company that doesn't issue, it's not going to up a dividend because they don't use that, is they're going to look and say, okay, we think our stock is undervalued. There's nothing we can do else with the cash that we think is better than
That's the
just
key point.
reducing our shares. So that's what they'll do. And hopefully I see all sorts of calls for GME should, buy back shares, or AMC should buy, they just, back shares. Well, you do that when you're successful and you think your share price is too low, not too high. So you spend that capital in place of doing it. I would prefer a company to dividends, but let's say they don't want to put themselves on the hook forever by increasing their dividend, doing it. A one-time thing you do is, okay, we'll go buy back 3% of our float. And that generally is very well perceived, but it's also only happens when you have cash, you're making money, and you perceive your stock is too cheap.
I want to just take a sidebar very quickly for my friend Neil. And Neil, I love you and I appreciate your support. And this is a common thing that I hear. Provide evidence that it's hard to sell from DRS. Guys, I don't have a computer share account, but I do have Twitter. And you can look on Twitter for a computer share being down and people being frustrated, not being able to sell. And you will find dozens or hundreds of tweets. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to argue with anybody. It is indisputable that it can be hard to sell on computer share.
You just can't point and click. That's whether it's harder than taking your Schwab account and pushing the sell button and you're done in 2 seconds. I think that's probably all you need to.
Other thoughts I wanted to say about Ryan. The balance sheet's in good shape, but they're not really profitable. I see the GameStop people pounding the table. We're profitable. GameStop to the moon. Yeah. They don't really understand finance. They don't understand that Wall Street doesn't give a shit about your couple of pennies. And I would say this about AMC or any stock. Marginally profitable is not profitable. Operational loss is an operational loss. These people are fooling their viewers because they're probably just misguided themselves. They probably have good intentions, but they don't know what they're talking about. Ryan needs cash on the balance sheet to pivot the company. And it's a beautiful thing what he did. He recognized they're not us. They're not retail. They know what the fundamental value of their shares are. They read analyst report and they believe it because it's facts. They know what the fundamental value is. They see it trading at 2, 3, 10 times fundamental value. They are going to use that opportunity to raise cash and provide them an opportunity to really pivot the business into something meaningful and great over the long term. That's what I got to say about that. Corax or Sparky, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, and they just kind of need the cash on the balance sheet because they're still, and I really wish that they'd be a lot more upfront with their shareholders about what they're doing. Just something, literally anything would help them a whole lot more. Absolutely. When it comes to an earnings call, for the love of God, an earnings call.
How about it's been a year since they've had one? That's also, by the way.
They got all this cash, but there's no idea to what to do with it. And how are you supposed to change the opinions of these analysts if you just got this cash sitting on the balance sheet and they're just like, so what are you doing with it? I don't know.
I don't blame them for a second raising it, but it would certainly support the effort.
Price better.
Let's just make sure we focus
these two industries or something.
Let's make sure we focus these answers on why would he do it? Was it all an evil plan to give UBS shares to fix 83 billion in swaps? That's all horseshit as far as I'm concerned. Was it to give I don't know what other bank was floating around out there, JP Morgan, a bunch of shares to cover their shorts? I don't think that was the intent. It might have been a a side effect. You add share liquidity into the pool and you drive the price down with the dilution announcement, you're going to make it easier for shorts to cover. But I don't think that was the intent. The management of none of these companies cares about helping the shorts. They probably hate the shorts as much as we do. What they care about is building long-term value and setting themselves up for long-term success.
I like Warren Buffett, his comments on short sellers on Berkshire, where he's like, I openly invite them to, they're guaranteed buyers in the future.
Yeah. And that could,
I just care about running the company.
That could be the case. I mean, who knows what Ryan Cohen does next that gets GameStop to a point where I can confidently tell you with mathematical and finance book proof, and Mark as a bond trader could, fact check me, that the fundamental value is $26. I'd love to tell you guys that. I'd love to tell you that. But there's no financial professionals that is going to tell you that. Just people on YouTube, because they don't know what they're talking about.
You used the book when we started this, and I don't think Corex was on here. We went through what the book value is, adding the cash, and that's them
exactly
great support.
What
but until they do something that generates money, it's just cash. And it doesn't.
During his little Twitter streams, he was using the cash plus the book value, and he came to somewhere around $10 to $12 a share.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. You look at book value right now, 650, maybe 1050 with the new money they're raising. Add on. I don't know. That already includes the cash. I would add on a little bit for investor sentiment or just what I call potential, but Martin was exactly right. Wall Street is not going to care until they turn that cash into actual earnings per share. Yeah. That's where things change. GameStop makes some announcement of an acquisition. Hey, retail's going to run that puppy up, but then it's going to come back down unless the company they acquire already has booked profits on their income statement where everybody can say, oh yeah, that's coming right over here, baby.
Yeah.
Beautiful. They need to put that cash to work somehow. Wedmore, great question. And that what could they do with GameStop to make it profitable? They could acquire a profitable company. So all of you who think he's going to buy GameStop or pay off their debt, I'm sorry. My opinion, 0% chance. GameStop does not need to be investing money in a money-losing company. Hey, I love AMC. I want to see it succeed, but it's not a smart decision for GameStop. And same with Highcroft. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think, at the right price, I think they could buy Highcroft from AMC. I'm just saying.
I think I would have a devastating opinion of their management if they invest money in a non-profitable company.
I'm just saying, if I'm Adam Aram, I'm on the phone with Ryan Cohen right now. So you just raised an awful lot of money. I got this company.
You're taking it off my hands for me.
I think,
Mullen's like, can I interest you in an EV?
Physical gold coins in your GameStop locations. I got this company that I think could help you know what? Cheap.
They keep stacking back this cash. I wonder if they're getting ready for they still need to have their digital experience maybe get better, but I really think the best thing that they could do is completely refresh their stores, get rid of all this physical media, use that space for something product that would sell, maybe open it up. Like one of the big things, like we were talking on that video, Tony, where they were going over the 4 pillars of their plan, just as Ryan Cohen was coming in the door, going over Roaring Kitty's videos, and that the best way that you could create that connection with the community is like you freed up all the space. Cool. Let's have trading card night or do stuff like just something. And it feels like all this cash is coming together for them to maybe not buy something out, but to put energy back into the business, refresh GameStop, give it a new start, change its image, make it more of like these, little mom and pop gaming stores that you see around, where there's a lot more interaction with the community. There's stuff that people want to see in the stores that they'll buy rather than going to Amazon. And
that probably is not an enormous investment either. I mean, that's the thing. You roll it out in a couple busy locations, and if it works, then you expand it, and what doesn't work, you peel back on. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's exciting.
What I'd like to see them do is invest in something that is not brick and mortar intensive, Roblox maybe. I don't know. I haven't even thought about what companies they could go acquire, but something that they can force multiply their digital footprint, and hopefully something that is a profitable endeavor that ideally, but not necessarily, is synergistic with their core business. That's what I'd like to see them do. And I heard Martin talk about, hey, maybe go buy some Bitcoin. Maybe they could go buy Bitcoin.
Oh my good, go the sailor route over there at MicroStrategy.
Look at when it works properly. Look what that's doing for his stock. I'm not saying that's what I want him to do, but I'm just throwing out ideas. Buy Bitcoin, buy some other good company's stock as an investment. But as I'm saying that, I'm still thinking they are putting themselves on the hook for getting sued for mismanagement if they lose a bunch of money with a bad investment, or buying something like Bitcoin and then it drops 50%. Can you imagine if they invested $2 billion in Bitcoin and it lost 50% of its value?
It almost happened to MicroStrategy where they took out loans and then the company almost fucking kicked the bucket.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's beautiful if things go up and you're really, really good. And I think Ryan Cohen's really, really good. But since I've only seen them investing in treasuries, I think that they're a little more conservative, and I'd like to see some conservatism. And I'd rather see them invest it in a business idea that is profitable than.
Well, and even the one thing I thought of right away, and you certainly wouldn't do this side, is remember when Microsoft bought Activision? I mean, they can't go buy a $20 billion company, but if they, if you have a content game creator thing you can find, and it's obviously not the easiest thing to find at a reasonable price, where it's exactly what you're talking about. Okay, you control what they're doing, you control the content, it's online, but you also can pull that into your locations where you have people come to your stores for on Friday nights and and have pizza and have a drink and participate at the location.
I know they got rid of their whole gamer trademark and everything, but I'd always thought that where they would go with that is, you're not going to really make much headway beating up trying to get into Steam. I mean, Epic Games splashed all this fucking money and they could still only get second best.
Yeah.
I think if you found some like niche part of the market, like indie games, like you got all these new indie developers and you just became the indie platform.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying, Corex, exactly.
Yeah.
They can't go buy some halfway developed thing for $10 billion, and if it doesn't work, they're dead. But be an incubator for exactly what you're saying. Not necessarily games, just for content. Be an incubator for content that people want to share, and take some foresight, maybe a little luck, but you don't have to hit on many of them to have it turn into a pretty good investment.
I'm going to just go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt that they are intelligent and innovative people, and that they will eventually come up with something that is meaningful. That I'm an optimistic person by nature. I'm not by any stretch pessimistic on GameStop. The world is their oyster right now. It's now up to them to deliver something to shareholders and communicate it. And that whole communication about strategy is really where they're lacking. But maybe we'll find out something. And we heard Roaring Kitty say today that they might already be working on something for all they know. And maybe they are. I hope they are.
Just wish they would tell all of us.
I don't know if Tony, I don't know if you wanted to even go the direction of commenting on him, but I actually was pleasantly surprised. I thought his stream today was kind of exactly along the lines of what his old ones were.
I want to talk about him, but can we knock out Salty 8's question?
That's fine. I didn't know where you wanted to start first, but
let's just get the financial stuff out of the way, then we'll have some fun talking about Roaring Kitty, because I think we could talk about him for 30 minutes, especially with the audience comments. Book value is not something that's going to be in a filing. That's just a financial math. It's a financial math calculation. It's black and white. So it's correct me if I'm wrong, Sparky, I'm not an accountant. It's assets minus liabilities gives you shareholders' equity. Yeah. Then you divide that shareholders' equity by the number of outstanding shares, and you get your book value per share. So go to the latest 10Q, add on about, let's just say 3 billion to the asset side, including last week's cash raise, and I'm just estimating 2 billion this time. You could bump it up to add 4 billion if you wanted. We don't know the number yet, but let's just say add 3 billion to that, subtract it from liabilities, divide by 426 million shares, and you get roughly around $10 book value. It's just finance.
And like we mentioned, that's a really good floor cushion, because if you get too close to that, and certainly if you get under that, you should get support, just like this play originally started 3 years ago, that under that you'll have not only, enthusiastic retail, but you'll start getting value investors that'll, longer term investors will dip into that if you get
correct. Were you listening to us when we started out talking about book value? Maybe we'll just circle back for anybody.
I just got off of work and I happened to catch you right when I sent that message.
For anyone that is just joining in and you missed the book value conversation, I was saying, Corex, the biggest problem I have is not that GameStop is trading over book value. I mean, we know, and we've heard on all these live streams we've done in the past 2 weeks, going over Keith Gill's original thesis. One thing that he loved is that the market cap of GameStop in 2020 was under the book value. It was it was lower than the shareholders' equity. That is a pure value play. And then you just got to convince yourself that the company can grow. And that's what he did, and it did. But the problem I'm having right now, Corex, is when I listen to other YouTubers trying to convince people that a $50 price is fine for GameStop. They'll say, look at GameStop's book value, $10 a share. Look at any other S&P company. They're trading at 5 or 10x book. So GameStop must be worth.
But they have earnings.
Yes. You said
they have earnings.
You said the same answer Sparky had.
Yeah.
This is like right there. Like
this, I want to reach out and strangle these other YouTubers. What you're missing is these other companies have earnings and GameStop doesn't. By earnings, we mean positive earnings per share. You can't just look at book value in a vacuum and say the company's worth $50 because every other company in the S&P is trading at 5x book. You do not know what you're talking about. You start with earnings. You start with earnings and you derive your price from that. And then you can cross-check it to book.
Yeah, that's what we came up with, that you have whatever your earnings are, you put some kind of market PE on it, then you give it the benefit of a higher PE if you see growth, or especially accelerating growth. That's how, things can trade at 100 PE if it's growing at 50%. And your back check is you go and say, well, geez, I don't think I have much downside, because if the stock's at 20, but my book value is 10 or 12.
I'm 100% confident this is why retail got rugged today, because they're being told by everybody in the GameStop community that clearly, trading at 5x book is reasonable and $50 is a fine price. And I've been taking all the bullets in the back for a couple months, telling you guys that is not the proper valuation.
Today's price was part of
the truth is, hopefully they grow into that. They
right. Hopefully they do, but
they make profits and they grow into 4 or 5 times.
The execs at GameStop know it's not worth $50, so of course they're going to dilute into a massively overvalued price and take advantage of that. This is why I've been preaching, understand what is the fair value. I know you hate it when I say it, but it's for your own protection, so that when you get a run up like this, you're like, oh shit, we're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 10x over any normal financial fundamental fair price. I ought to consider at least taking a little money off the table. And if you have that analysis in your head and you say, but I'm rolling the dice anyways, then fine. That at least you knew. But all the people that are being misled with bad financial analysis on other channels really pisses me off right now. And the more they keep doing that, the more I'm going to keep making GameStop videos and talking about this.
Yeah, well, some of those people don't know what ROI is, so.
You mean revenue? 100 million. Oh, you meant that revenue.
Yeah.
That in my world, we talk about revenue as, something else. Yeah.
Well,
I
on
just
Mars, maybe.
Blue Sky says, Tony, don't fight. I can't help YouTubers that are arrogant. And what's the word you use, Corex? The Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
I can't help those
Stupid.
YouTubers, but I do care about you guys. And I know I'm not gonna be able to help their diehard believers on these other channels. They have drank the Kool-Aid and they just hate me with a passion. But I hope, I pray, I wish that you guys would see I'm trying to explain something meaningful to you, to help you lock in some gains and know when to take them. And just like me, I don't know if I told you guys, after I sold last night at $60 and the rest at 43 today and locked in all of my gains, I bought some more today at market close around 28 bucks. Because guess what? I was all back in cash, made a lot of money this week in GameStop. And I took just a little bit of that. And I think there's still a chance that it could go down next week. So I didn't roll it all back in at 28 bucks. Just put a toe in the water to make it interesting. But
I was quite happy setting out all of this week with all that excitement. It was far too exciting for me.
I stuck with you. I was trying to have.
I do think
I want to buy, and I never did because I just thought they were too expensive.
I thought I was going to do either a buy, and I kept missing it because pre-market wasn't opening fast enough on Fidelity, and it just kept ripping. It's like, yeah, shorting that was definitely not the plan this week. Anytime it had a dip,
I'm glad you didn't. And I get accused a lot of being a short seller, guys. If this is your first time here, I want to be clear. Never in my life one time have I shorted a stock. People, well, why are you talking about the fundamental value then? To help teach you. A short is not going to teach you what proper fundamental value is. They're going to tell you, buy that fucker. Run it up.
Never
interrupt God bless you for shorting. You got to remember, shorting's unlimited risk. If you buy a put that doesn't go your way, all you do is lose your premium.
Let's pivot into talking about Keith Gill, the Roaring Kitty live stream today. I'm gonna go grab a cold beer because I've got just a couple sips. But Corex, did you watch it today, Sparky?
I watched it. I caught up with it when I was.
All right,
when
let's go Corex first. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I watched it through Hannah's live stream, and I found it pretty milquetoast. But then again, like the company hasn't given him anything to talk about. But
the original 3 years ago were all pretty dry. And
well,
I mean, it's very entertaining.
He definitely got more in depth in the fundamentals, and it just feels like this is more like. He knows it's a Wall Street bet. Just I'm throwing the dice and hoping it comes up on the line, with what I bet. And it doesn't feel like that this is like the value plays that he's done in the past. It just feels like he's rolling the dice, and he knows that he's going to have some support on that gamble because there's people that'll be his mooks.
Well, and he obviously already has more money than anything he ever need in the bank, even if his calls go to zero.
Oh yeah, even if this gets washed up, he had a huge cash position too that he showed, right?
I give him credit for coming on, but at the same time, he can't have the same discussion he had 3 years ago. He can't talk about the price being under book value, and it's not even close. I mean, he certainly can't talk about revenue growth because. When your revenue goes down 25%, it's kind of hard to push that.
Correct, because you're more of a stock trader and Sparky is not. I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to share mine. The price obviously came down today for a couple reasons. The dilution announcement, and then Roaring Kitty didn't exercise his options live on his live stream, and he really didn't have any meaningful news. So the price just got tanked. But here's what I want your opinion on, and Sparky, you too, but I'm going to let Corex go first. Do you think, and we can talk about, is the dilution done? But whenever the dilution's done, however many days it takes, when the dilution done announcement comes out, let's say it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if we are able to hold in this high 20 range, 27, 28, until then, do you think there will be a resurgence in price over excitement that the company has 4 or 5 billion cash on the balance sheet?
I'd say it depends. I love
I
prefacing
know
with it depends.
this is a very dangerous, and this is just opinion, guys. We don't
Right.
fucking know. We're just, and I want to hear your thoughts too.
I think, having seen GameStop's price this week, a lot of it really depends on some sort of fluctuation in other underlying factors. I think if they announce it, there'll be an initial pop, but where it goes from that pop of after finishing dilution, I think that more has to do with the bond market. First it was the general market just kind of rallied, and then these meme stocks, I noticed, like, it wasn't blow for blow, but I was looking at TLT, and like every GameStop rip was preceded with like TLT doing a pop. Like, it wasn't anywhere near the same because it's like GameStop, but it was just one of those things that it just feels like a lot of this sentiment is just brewing under the, when's the Fed going to cut rates? Come on, give it to us, give it to us, give it to us.
How about you, Sparky? You got any thoughts?
My thought would be, and it's not a whole lot dissimilar to the AMC when you and I were talking about them doing at the market. It's, if volume is, even if it doesn't go up, if volume is 50, 100, 150 million shares a day, it's real easy for them to slip in 10, 20, 25 million into that without crushing the price. And then the company hasn't said anything, and they should just, be sitting like this and hope you get volatility, and whether it goes up or down, even if it goes down a little more, if it only goes down a little, but on 100 million shares because people are day trading the crap out of it, that's perfect for them. Just because they have to bleed in. They have to bleed in a lot of shares.
Do you know what the volume was today on GameStop?
Like 200 something, I think.
280 million.
And this was obviously a big focal point with, Roy and Kid. So I don't know that you can expect that, but it'd be really easy following that to trade 100 million for a couple days, just because people are, there's still a lot of buzz, and
the price held up pretty well.
How cheap it is, and let's go, we're going to run this back up, and they're happy to sell it to them.
Yep. I said in my Discord today, 20% chance they're done today, 80% chance that I think, this is just my guess, 80% chance that they're done with dilution by end of the day Monday if the high volume keeps up.
It all comes down to what they sold today. If they sold even 25, 30, 35 million of that today,
I think they could have sold 50 million today. I can believe
that's what I'm saying. Because it spiked down to 27 or something, then it came back up to 32, and it was kind of holding there and on huge volume.
So
it very well could have taken a big chunk out.
Typically, what I see after dilution on a typical play, we'll just use AMC as an example. When they're done, there could be this period of mourning, I call it, where the stock is just kind of lackadaisical for a period of days or weeks. But then as long as there's no more bad news, you start creeping back up.
We saw that last time right before they announced that dilution was finished, where we started to see AMC's price sort of lift up a little bit. And then
and the difference GME to AMC is AMC has to dilute it, and there is an overhang that they probably have to do more. GME doesn't have to sell another share. They just took advantage of the market.
Here's what's even more exciting. Here's why I bought a little bit at the end of the day today, even though I know that the price could drop into the lower 20s next week, possibly. I don't know, I can't give you a probability analysis, but it's definitely possible. But I think there's a high probability it could hang out right here around 26, 29, maybe even go up. But as long as Roaring Kitty is involved, that's what my thesis is built around. Nothing else.
And I think
the options chain, UBS, anything else, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. Is Roaring Kitty still involved? Then people will be excited.
And I'm not an options guy, but the one thing, I don't know if it's necessarily positive, but the market, the YouTubers certainly, or the retail certainly thinks so, is until June 21st, when anybody actually sees what's going to happen, you're going to have these bouts of enthusiasm and maybe mashed off with some down days, but that's going to keep enthusiasm up for another 2 weeks. That's a long time to be able to get in and do something.
Imagine if they say on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday that they're done with the dilution. You know that all the cheerleaders are going to be coming out saying, we got $5 billion on the balance sheet and we're profitable.
And no more dilution. I mean, and there is some.
And Roy and Kitty's going to do a live stream and say, yeah, Ryan, let's fucking go. And cheers. And people are going to rally this thing up. I could totally see that being another scenario. So if you're feeling bad today, I guess I'm saying I can't promise you anything, but I'm going to put a little of my money on the line. I will tell you, it is a coin toss. All right. This is speculation for me. This is a bet. I'm not risking money that I can't lose. If I lost all of it, which I know I'm not going to, because I will have an exit plan if it doesn't work out. If this thing starts dropping into the low 20s, I'm out. I'm not going to watch my money get eroded. But as long as it's hanging out here, I'll hang out.
Well, I mean, as long as you're not one of these buy and hold people and you're a trader, there's going to be plenty of volatility so long as this period goes on. So if you want to be puts or calls or just the shares or short or whatever, I'm sure you'll find a period of time that'll work out just fine for you.
I think there's a good, reasonable argument to be made that this thing could rally again. And I think, the shorts are going to be more hesitant to short at those. So
the volatility is, as much as you love it on the long side, it's in Corex, you say if I'm wrong, it's very hard to short into something that, even though we had this, especially after we have this trash, that can go right back to 50.
There's been a couple times on some of these rallies where like I've shorted and it just does this rip. And even if which it did, that it was just going to collapse back down, I pulled the position because like once it does one of those rips, it's like I have no idea where it's going to. So I'm going to take that risk off. Because I can't do that. I can't expose the position like this. And sure enough, I was right. The next candle was straight fucking back down. But what you gonna do?
But you don't know. Protect your portfolio. In that volatility, like I said, I would have been beautiful if I would have bought the 30 puts when it was at 48 even yesterday. And I looked at the price and I looked at my break even and I went, if I'm stuck holding, I wouldn't have done weeklies. I would have gone out past the 21st. I would have gone like into July monthlies. And I looked at it, and I don't remember what it was, but my break even was enormous. You needed to basically go back down to 20 if you didn't trade it in the middle. If it went against you and you tried to hang on to it, you needed a 50% move to make anything. And that, to me, I look at that and go, that's just asking.
That IV is getting really expensive as far as any sort of options playing on a lot of these stocks that are being affected by this whole distortion field, I guess we can call it.
I want to get to Chris's question on the screen, but first I'm going to answer Tubby's question. He's asking in the chat here, what is the deal with AMC's filings today, Class B to Class A and other share changes? I saw the filings from AMC. They filed their vote results, and they filed a file to set aside some shares for the executive compensation.
Right, that's
normal common. AMC does not have any Class B shares, so I'm not sure what you read, but the Class B shares were discontinued back in 2021 when Wanda exited. So
isn't that just setting aside restricted shares for compensation or bonuses?
Yes.
Or something
Yeah.
like
I mean, but they're setting aside common, the
Right.
Class A, for executive rewards, those RSUs and PSUs, 25 million shares. That's something that we voted on. I did not see anything abnormal in their filings. If I did, I'd tell you. But Tubby, I am going to, now that they finally did this damn filing, I've been waiting 2 days. I'm going to do my AMC vote wrap up video, 5 minutes of thoughts on the vote. And I'll make sure I read in detail, see if I can find what you're talking about.
But it's also not a lot. Isn't it only a couple million shares usually a year? It's not. It's 3 or 4.
Yeah, but I don't know the specific wording he's talking about. I mean, Wanda converted their Class B to Class A back in 2020.
Yeah, but that was a different
thing. And then they discontinued the Class B. We have no Class B. And how do you know that? Go pull up the prospectus the recent prospectus and click on the description of capital stock, and it will tell you AMC has X number of common and 50 million preferred. And that's the shares they have. There is no Class B.
Maybe those are the ones trading in Germany and Brazil.
Don't even start, Bubba. Don't even start.
I'm sorry, I get to be snarky a little bit.
Well, here's my snark on this. So Mr. Willis did not stop the shareholder vote. Oops.
Neil says, don't forget the annual shareholder meeting for GameStop. Thank you for reminding me about that, Neil. And are they going to have a call-in for that? Do you know? It's on the 11th. What day is it on, Neil?
It's on the 11th, I think, but I didn't think they were having like question and answer. I thought
the 11th was going to be 7, 8, 9. The 11th was going to be the earnings date, and they moved it to today. I don't remember what date their annual shareholder meeting is, but if they have a call in, he says yes, call in. All right, if they do, I'll live stream it. Of course, nobody's going to watch my channel because I'm not known as the GameStop guy, and that's fine. But for my viewers, if you're interested, if there's a call, I'll stream it. Chris says, in your opinion, what do you think would have happened to the stock if Roaring Kitty would have exercised his shares today? I love that question. And I got asked that question a lot today, including by people in DMs and in my own Discord. And I'm going to give you my honest answer. And I know why you're asking, because I see all the same social media hype. So where are they going to find the shares? Where are they going to find the shares to give Ryan his 12 million? I'm just going to say, guys, I'm just going to say the same answer.
Hey,
I don't have different answers in DMs or Discord than I have here with you, ever. It's always the same information. I think that there is nothing that would have happened specific to Ryan exercising his 12 million shares, except there could have been a FOMO bump from people excited about it, but that price bump would have had nothing to do with the fact of him getting 12 million shares from somebody to exercise his options. That is my honest opinion. Corex, what do you think?
I think that's pretty straight up. Like, if you didn't think that the brokers were not properly hedged for that, I have serious doubts. And if they weren't, then well, someone was getting fired.
There are a lot of people that have their life and their persona built around this idea that everything is synthetic and naked and we don't talk about that on this channel. I don't base my trading around those sort of narratives, and that makes a lot of people angry, and I get it, and I'll just ask your forgiveness. Don't give up on me. I don't think that those things don't exist, but it's not a factor of what we really talk about on this channel. Have I used the word synthetic or naked ever in the past 3 years? Sure. Mostly when I'm answering questions. But, you're not going to find 10 tweets a day or 5 videos a day for me talking about naked shorts and synthetic shares. It's just not a general topic of this channel. Have I ever talked about it? Could you go through every video in the last 3 years and pick out that one tweet, that one video? Of course. It's something everybody talks about. It's not a general theme of my channel. And so I'm going to say the same thing for GameStop. It would have had zero impact except for FOMO, people being excited because they listened to people who told them it was meaningful.
Yeah.
Corex, help me out here. Don't hang me up on the cross by myself. First day here,
I agree,
first time here.
Yeah, I know, right? But no, I generally agree with that. I don't think there's going to be anything really meaningful to come of that. And I think that he anticipated to likely take on that position because he bought him in the money, I'm pretty sure. So
it seemed like it based on timing, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if those shares were sold by an institution that sold covered calls and has the shares to deliver. I don't know if a market maker sold them to him naked. I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, it gets worked out. Whoever sold them knows how to hedge. You don't sell 120,000 options not knowing what you're doing. Is that a fair statement?
Oh yeah.
This was not a noob that sold him those shares. Whoever fucking did that knows how to hedge and make sure that they come up with the shares. That is why I think it is meaningless, in my opinion. And I think people talking about it otherwise maybe haven't thought that through.
Yeah.
What are my thoughts on Wu-Tang NFT dividend? Not something I care about. I think it's meaningless. It's a great way to hype people up and get them to overpay for shares. There was a lot of that going on this week. And you notice I was mostly just quiet. I'm just trading it. Everybody else can go be wrong and go be excited about stuff that doesn't matter. I'm just gonna buy at a low price and sell at a high price, and then celebrate on Friday night. Cheers.
I mean, that's basically what I did. I went out and got back in a little heavier on some of the other positions that I'm in.
I added to some other positions today too.
Yeah.
With my winnings from GameStop.
Nice. Yeah.
What is that background noise? Is that
I think
Sparky?
That's Sparky's end, yeah.
I'm going to mute him for a second.
Yeah. Because, yeah.
How about naked chicks and synthetic tits? Well, I'm long on that. Blue sky.
I guess, yeah.
Neil says Wu-Tang's probably going to be the dividend. Maybe it is. I don't know. I just telling you, I don't care about it. I mean, if it is great. If it isn't, oh well. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to my fundamental analysis of the price of the stock. Hopefully that's a satisfactory answer.
All right. Since I'm doing Casual Friday today, I'm going to stand up. If anyone can name the anime in this shirt, you can get a cookie from me. I don't know how you want to get the cookie, but you know what? If you know what's going on here, then
why don't you send them a free Carmen Sandiego video game?
There we go. I'll get you a free manga or something. I don't know. I'll figure it
out. Let's see. What other questions y'all got? I wanted to talk about Roaring Kitty, his live stream. I got a lot of questions again in my Discord and DMs. A lot of people have very strong opinions. I saw a lot of wild theories on Twitter.
I like Matt.
That
he was a cool person.
He was acting. This was a master plan. Here, I'm just going to break it down really simple from someone who does YouTube and someone who does fundamental analysis like him and likes to YOLO every now and then. Well, I don't YOLO, but I bet on some, very risky speculative plays, just like he does. Not to the extent that he does, or I wouldn't have been worth $1 billion. I was not worth $1 billion for a few minutes today, like he was. But I think he. And I already know. My friends are already arguing with me, and that's fine if you disagree. This is just my opinion. I think he miscalculated the fact that Ryan Cohen would dilute. I think it caught him by surprise. That's why he came out in bandages. He was like, fuck, just got blown up, dude. I'm just taking him exactly what I see. I take what I see, and I apply logic to it. I think he wasn't anticipating that. I think he was disappointed. He was hurt. And he put on the absolute best face that he could. He showed no emotion, which I appreciate. That was the absolute right call. He was emotionless. He was jovial. He's happy. He knows there's literally nothing he could do. He was just stuck. And he knows, he's smart enough to know, just like I know, that dilution will be over in a couple days, and he's got till the 21st, and that he could rally this fucker again. So he just kind of, hey, cheers, everybody, cheers. What could he say? There's nothing he could say. He got fucked, but he has time. So that's what I think about Roaring Kitty today. I don't think that he's not any smarter than us. He's not working with anybody. We heard that. He has a YOLO plan, which respect more balls than me. I would never do that. And if I did, I certainly would have sold last night, but can't sell options after hours. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? He was stuck. Man. He was fucking stuck. Ryan fucked him. But he has time. He has time to get out of it. So.
Yeah. And he actually showed his losses and was happy to own, you know, like their paper losses. I mean, I think he's still pretty green in that position overall, right? But he isn't like some of these people. It's like, oh yeah, I'm totally green, guys. Don't worry. You can't see my portfolio, but I'm totally green. Believe me, guys. Like a lot of these hucksters, not singling in on one person, but there's a lot of them on YouTube that are like, oh yeah, I'm always green. Never made a mistake in my life. Trust me.
My biggest mistake yesterday was not selling 100% of my shares at $60. I let a few ride overnight just on that chance that we had a further rally today, and GameStop held off on that dilution till after hours Friday. I was like, that would be the humane thing to do, Ryan. Give the kids a fucking chance. And Ryan's like, nope, we're gonna do. We're gonna do the rational, logical thing.
Yeah, I still think you would have probably seen a dip even if he had done that, because I think it would have been like the Elon SNL effect. Like you have all that hype for Roaring Kitty, his first live stream in forever. It was,
and then you get no meaningful information, and you just get a denouement. You know,
and then just like the whole hype dies, and it.
I think that's exactly the calculus they did. Correct. I mean, management over there is very logical, very methodical. They probably said that exact conversation. What are the chances that he rallies it versus the chances that it tanks after his little video? And they said, we're not going to take the chance. We can dilute right now at $60.
Yeah.
And we'll take a hit. It'll drop to 40 and then 30 and then 20s. But that's better than waiting for it to drop to 20 because people weren't impressed with RK. So as much as I know y'all hate me saying this, I think they did the smart thing for the company, for long-term shareholder value. In the moment, I absolutely get it. You're upset. You're disappointed. You think that they're all conspiring against you. I look at it much more pragmatically and without emotion, that they did the smart finance thing. Yeah. They don't think like us. They do not think like us. I have another video. It's called Trust No CEO. What do we talk about that in that video? We talk about don't put CEOs on a pedestal. Understand what their job is, and then you can anticipate what they're going to do. How do I always fucking know what these CEOs are going to do? Because I spend a lot of time trying to think like they would, not like you do. Someone said, what are you, a fucking wizard? Like, how did you know to sell yesterday as it was peaking? I'm not a fucking wizard. I don't have any inside info. I try and think logically like a CFO would. Am I always right? No, I'm not always right, but it saved my hide many times and helped me lock in profits. Either lock in profits or not get, rug pulled, avoid major losses. I don't always get it right, but it's not always, no one is 100% correct. We just try and do the best we can do. And if you're listening to people who are dancing, screaming, all up in emotions, you're probably already on the wrong train track, because that person is not thinking logically. They're thinking with their emotions. I hope you can see that. Am I wrong, Corax?
No, I think that's pretty accurate.
I think back, Corax, to the heyday of 2021, and I think back, I probably had some crazy party days, but I'm going to go back to my new slogan, that I've been saying for the last 2 years. We're not in 2021 anymore. We need to be a lot more methodical and logical about what we're doing, because a lot of people are down a lot of money, and I want to see you fucking get it back. And every time you let these opportunities slip by, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because you're listening to emotional hype men. You're listening to pumpers, and you're just missing opportunities. Missing opportunities to fix your bag.
Tony and Corix, this is I don't know if you covered this. I apologize if you did, but did you talk at all about being surprised that he hadn't sold any of his calls? Or I mean, I don't expect him to sell his shares, but
I mean, I try and think like a CFO would, or a logical person. So I would have sold them, but of course you couldn't sell the options after hours last night.
No, but I'm just surprised.
Even earlier in the week, I would have sold them.
Or just legged out of it. You and I talk about this all the time, having a plan. He seems like such a methodical.
I know. I don't get it. I can't wait to finish our 10-part series, dissecting his psyche and looking at his original DD and how he got to the YOLO man that he is right now.
I just don't think he would have killed the market if he would have come out and said. It didn't even have to come on his stream. Just if he's worried, not that he'll get sued, but he's worried about it. Say, hey, I sold 10,000 of my calls yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I have 120, and at some point you gotta bleed these out because it makes sense to do.
Look, I'm just going to tell you as a YouTuber, like I stupidly held my AMC from 2021 to late 2023. Part of it was pride, to have solidarity with people that were watching me every day. And I gave a lot of the money back that I earned with my initial trade in that early part of June 2021 by paying too much for shares. And then fuck it, man, I'm just going to go with these people and let's do this buy and hold thing and hope it works out. You get stuck almost, and traded the same thing. I mean, you get stuck holding with people when your gut instinct tells you that this might not work out. And
I think that might be part of it. Like he came back, like he's got all this money, he doesn't need to do anything, but like there's almost like some part of that community that he like feels that he needs to be a part of. Maybe, I don't know.
But at some point, I had to, for my own capital preservation, shift my strategy, which ended up being after the AMC ape conversion, and I'm not going back to that model. I'm going to treat the meme stocks just like I would any other stock in my portfolio. I will buy cheap. I will hold it as long as it makes sense and the company's improving, and I will sell when it reaches a point. But meme stocks, you need to be diligent about identifying what is the proper entry point. Is the company profitable or not? Is the price likely to be driven down or up? Where is it in relation to fundamental value? And then if you can be intelligent enough to detect the volatility swings, you can play it. But the buy and hold thing is not really working out for most people. Only the volatility traders are the ones that I've seen making money.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised by it, but he's smart enough to understand that these things are gonna erode down. Even if he's right, he's going to lose that extra little premium he's got on top of whatever the conversion is. So
yeah, I mean, the longer it takes for it to recover, he's going to get burned on theta, right?
And I guess I've never been up $200 or $300 or $400 million on anything. I'd like to think at some point, and his 5 million shares, he's fine. What is that, 100 million or something, even at 20? So I mean, he's never going to need another penny in his life. But it'd be sure a lot more fun to have 200 million.
I'm too much of a consummate winner. If I had as up as he was on those options, I would have been like, done, sold.
Well, but even just like we talk all the time, just to leg out, because I think he's almost doing as methodical as he is, and I love going back, and I never watched him the first time, going through back the old 2021 videos, as methodical as he is, how he traded and what he was thinking. I don't think he would have shot anybody in the foot, and might have actually given retail better investment, strategy advice than just, hey, I found this cheap company. When you're up, you don't have to sell all of it. You sell 5,000, sell 10,000 call.
Lock in your profits.
When you have so many of them, and, it's not like he's got 25,000 and all right, yeah, it's a couple $1,000,000 and he's got 100 million behind it. You're talking about having what I saw at one point they had it up there today that his swing today was like minus 320 or $30,000 or 320 million. And
Michael says GME has another run. Too many catalysts coming up. I hope so, Michael. I'm back in, and if it holds at this level, I'll keep on dipping some extra toes in the water and then hope that we get a little volatility push up. But I'm going to say the same thing for the next 2 weeks that I said for this past week that we just finished. I want to get the best entry possible. If it doesn't work out, if I see that my plan is not working out, I'm going to have an exit plan. I'm not going to write it down. And if it runs up, I'm going to sell. Hopefully that is crystal clear. If you don't like that plan, there are other channels you can buy and hold. You can buy and hold with them, and give the stock to your kids. I'm here to make money and support my family and pay, make sure my wife is well taken care of after I'm dead.
No, and that's, like we started the call with even before Corax jumped on. It's just the discipline is sometimes it's hard to make yourself sell when you're way up. You don't have to sell all of it. You just
as much as I gave Lou some shit, Lou from Wall Street, the whole idea of having brackets it's a really good strategy. Once you're up X percent, whatever that percent is for you, sell a little bit. I was selling 10%, 10%, 10% as it was running up.
When you're up, not every play you're up 200 or 300%, but especially in the ones where you are, if you're up 300%, if the stock goes from 11 to 40 and you sell 25%, you've taken your investment off the table.
That's where experience and taking emotions out of it and recognizing what is the fundamental value versus where are we at, and then what is the probability that it keeps going. The problem is everybody always thinks, it's 100% probability it's going to $1,000.
Yeah.
I've told you guys this before. The higher it goes, the more nervous I get. The higher it goes. When it was at 65, I was like, shit. I was literally ready to sell it all right there. I was like, I'll just do my next bracket at 70.
Right.
And, but it didn't hit 70.
I saw a video this morning right out of the gate, and I think it was when it was pre-market trading over 60. He's like, if it gets to 69, he's a billionaire. And maybe that's what he's thinking. Yeah, billionaire sounds better than a couple 100 million, but
I don't think like these other YouTubers that are telling you it's going to 1,000 or 10,000 or a million. I'm like, would this be a career winning trade that runs up 700, 800%?
Absolutely.
I could live with that. Do I need $1 million a share? What's the likelihood of that happening? 1 in a billion? You'd have to have every conspiracy theory ever talked about come true all at the same time. And that's just not a high probability in my world. So I'm just trying to take profits and then rinse and repeat and just keep on doing that every week. My numbers will outpace anybody else who's counting on every conspiracy coming through at the same time. Over the course of the next 5 years, my weekly winnings will far surpass all of theirs. Pretty sure that's a safe bet.
Speaking of on that whole subject of taking profits, I got stupidly greedy on that too. Kirk ran up 30%, and I should have at least taken that 30% off the table, so that way when it came back down, I could just throw that back in there and
you didn't.
Shares. Yeah.
But it's probably a solid company, right? Is it profitable?
Not right now, but what I'm really betting on is they're like I talked with you last time we were on the stream. I think that it can turn around. It beat on earnings this earnings. It's still losing money though, but
there are some marginal companies that I own right now that if they ran up 30%, I'd sell them. And if I could do that in a month or two, you're still beating the indexes. You're beating the market. You're beating the pros.
Yeah. And my big thing right now is like we were talking about margin of safety and all that stuff. That buyout offer that they had a big hedge fund come in, buy 9%, said we think that this company is horribly undervalued at under $2, we think that we can find a buyer to sell it at 7. And so like, that is what I find is my margin of safety. I just keep buying at the $2 range. And like, I don't think it's going to get to 7 if they find a seller, but like the company still hasn't turned around yet. They
So
maybe find
what's
it at like
amazing,
4 or
even with
6.
what you're talking about, let's say, okay, you had what you would consider a healthy full position buying it at whatever you're buying at. And
Around
then you
the
say,
range,
I think this could explode for whatever reason. I'm going to buy some calls. If it does explode up, you can, but I'm saying if it does, the first thing you should sell is, especially if they're due in 2 weeks, the first thing you should do is peel off some of that. You can always hang on to the million shares or whatever you have forever, because hanging on to shares forever is fine, because if it goes down and 5 years from now it perks up, you're fine.
Options have an expiry date,
especially his coming due in 2 weeks. And we started talking about this a couple months ago when maybe they were coming due in 90 days. You have an expiration, you have a limit on those. And I still think, and I don't know I don't know if we'll ever find out who wrote that. This call he bought for 120,000 was negotiated by a broke, TD or not TD or whoever he did this with.
E-Trade.
I would guess with 2 or 3 big players, and I still think there's a chance, and I don't know if we'll ever find this out, that it may be somebody big that has the shares and is more than happy to hand them to them. And then
this brings up a good point. This brings up a good point, and people ask me over the past week, Tony,
especially
do you think
cheap?
People ask me, Tony, do you think E-Trade can come up with the 12 million shares? Guys, E-Trade's just the broker. They're not the ones that have to come up with the shares. Yeah. They're the broker. It's like, have you ever bought a house? You buy a house, you got a broker or real estate agent that's the middleman. They
negotiated this for them, but
yeah, I mean, E-Trade transacted the transaction, but there's a seller of those options on the other side. E-Trade is not. E-Trade is a broker dealer, I guess. Theoretically, I'm going to walk that back. Theoretically, they could have written those options, but realistically, I think someone who owns the shares probably,
especially when you're talking about someone who's like a high, what do they call it? A high. It's not income, because he technically doesn't have an income. He's just, he's got money, but like they got a very big profile. They're not an institutional investor, but they definitely get more perks than we do, which means he could probably call E-Trade and be like, hey, I'd like to make this deal. Can you find the number of people that it takes to get set up? And they'll be like, yes, because the commission's going to be great.
And that's what people do. I mean, in my former life, when I wasn't on the buy side and I was on the bond side, but my firm certainly did this. That's what you do all day long. That's how they make their money, is somebody comes to them and says, hey, I want to, and it may not have been 120,000. Hey, I want to see if I can get 50,000 calls. That's a pretty good block. And they'll go out and solicit it. And somebody will come back and say, well, the value normally would be this, but we have somebody for a point higher or 2 points higher says, yeah, they'll do it. It's all math calculation, and they almost have to. There's not enough calls in the stack where somebody like sold him 20s and maybe bought 22s because that's a popular trade too, where they sell them 20s but buy 25 calls to limit their risk. They're just not anywhere near enough in the stack, but I think it's going to be some holder that said, at the time, again, the stock was at 11 a month and a half ago, and they said, you want to buy 20 calls so we get 100% of our money plus 5.5 points premium? Yeah, we'll do that trade. And,
hell yeah.
And it doesn't mean like, and I'm throwing BlackRock out, not that I think it's them. I have no idea it is, but I think they have 30 million shares or whatever they have.
20, I think Vanguard and BlackRock have each, like, I don't know, 20, 25
they wouldn't do it on all, but maybe they do it on 5. 5. That way, if it runs up, okay, yeah, they lost 5 million shares each or 6 million shares each at 20, but the other 20 million they own are at 25, and that it just there's a lot of very meticulous math that goes into this, and I don't think anybody's naked. I'm sure nobody's naked short 120 contracts, because they just wouldn't. You wouldn't have the capital you wouldn't put that trade on. I mean, it's just nobody's going to do that.
Sufjan says, what did the last 3 years teach you as a full-time YouTuber? I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I YouTube when I have something meaningful.
We would greatly appreciate if you want to give me and Tony the money to be full-time YouTubers.
Yeah.
We'd be more than happy.
I manage my businesses. I sit here and day trade also, and I make YouTube videos when I have time. If I was a full-time YouTuber, I'd be pumping out 5 videos a day, and I'd be here live streaming every day for 5 hours.
Tony, can I jump in for a second? I think this is Neil said the institution owners have to lend out shares. And what's the cost to borrow on GME is pretty high, isn't it? 8 or 9 or 10%?
Well, it used to be like even like the past couple run-ups, it really wasn't that bad. Like that's the thing is now I've noticed, at least on Fidelity. Now it's different for each broker, the cost to borrow and how they handle it. But at least for Fidelity, I wasn't doing it anytime to this week, but the past few weeks that I did it, like the cost to borrow was still pretty reasonable. I think like during some of the bigger run-ups, it got up into like the teens. For the most part, it was like around 5. And
but I guess my point is that the holders, especially the bigger ones, are more than happy to lend out their shares, even at 5%.
Yeah.
The shares loaned out is 25% of the float.
The only thing that got tight was the collateral requirements that Fidelity was asking me. The cost to borrow never really got.
Yeah, I mean, it was the short interest high enough to make it spicy? Yes. Was it? Yeah. Was it so bad that somebody's going to be obliterated? No, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't 100% or 140% short interest like in 2020.
That's what really annoyed me last week when I was short AMC. Is like when I closed that position and then Fidelity updated with my my margin account. I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me this puny little AMC position was taking up 9K of my collateral? Fuck off.
I think, this is going to be, some people aren't going to like me to say this, but you should be used to this by now. I think people cling on to things that sound meaningful, like the institutions loaned out all their shares. It sounds meaningful. Where's your evidence? Yeah, it probably is not meaningful. That's why I don't talk about it. I'll leave that to the pumper channels. But if I thought it was meaningful, I damn sure would be talking about it. I can guarantee you that.
No, Neil, you're talking about, I think this goes into that. You're talking about, we'll recall shares or something. I've never seen a share recall. People can talk about that, but that's not
Think about what you would have to do that. You'd have to physically stop all trading. That ain't happening.
There's just a lot of people in the retail community that have convinced themselves of certain narratives that they think are meaningful that are probably not factual. That's just it. Sufjan says, what is what did it teach me, Sufjan? So I told someone this earlier today. I think the most important thing I learned is be humble, because you're not always going to be right. Even though I strive to always be as correct and factual as I can, I'm not always right. So be humble, be able to admit your mistakes, and do not celebrate. Let me repeat this slowly. Do not celebrate until you have sold and locked in your gains. If I see you dancing and partying and you have not sold, I'm going to think you're a little bit foolish.
If it's good enough to take a screen cap, it's good enough to book those profits.
If I see you celebrating and you have not sold and locked in your gains, I'm going to think you're a fool.
No, Neil, to answer your question, I absolutely think every single institutional holder is lending out their shares, but they're not going to recall them. They don't. That's not what they do. I mean, it's.
I will say one thing on the Roaring Kitty topic. Having seen his hairdo, some people have said it's a wig. Regardless, I'm envious of his long flowing locks. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm pretty sure he's got a longer. It was down to about right here.
I looked at it really, really close. I was trying to figure out the same thing. I think it was his real hair, but the top little poofiness,
the bandana kind of helped hide it.
Neil says, do you think they're not lending out their shares? No, they're lending out their shares for sure. But I don't think that there's going to be a problem getting Roaring Kitty 12 billion shares, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that these are 120,000 naked calls written. There's more to it than that.
Maybe they are. I mean, if they are, that adds to my winning percentage. So I hope that they are, but I'm not going to make videos telling you that they are definitely. E-Trade's going to have problems finding 12 million shares. I don't have any evidence of that. And anybody saying that doesn't have evidence of that. Therefore, it is speculative, but people say it with authority, and that pisses me off because then it makes people pay too much for a stock and not sell it, and then they get wrecked when the company announces dilution. I hope you can see where I'm going with this.
So, Tony, you got any plans for FOMC Wednesday?
I've been so involved in micro analyzing this play this week that I know FOMC is coming up next week. I would like to be able to get back talking about economics and general market conditions, but we have been so wrapped around the axle, micro focusing on this plays to extract every dollar of profit possible out of it and not make dumb decisions. And I don't own any AMC shares, and all my, I had long calls, which didn't work out for today, but everybody who was owning shares was making a fuck ton of money selling options, selling covered calls, or selling cash secured puts. And it's just not at the price for me to do it. So I had to really focus my attention on making the absolute smartest trades on just regular GameStop shares. And that took up a lot of my time.
Corex, I'm a bond guy, and to answer your question, I don't have any plans for the Fed meeting on Wednesday.
I just know that I just know that I took off. I've already done one live stream on them. This next Wednesday is a live stream. I'm just an econ nerd, so I got.
They aren't going to raise or lower rates.
No, they aren't. No, I've already come to that.
They very subtly have changed their language at every one of these meetings, so that's what
that's what I'm curious on.
Bonds dropped 30 basis points this week.
I live streamed them.
A lot of that is because it was like softly rallying up because what they've been doing, this like facility where they've been doing swapping bonds with the banks, where they're like getting some of these like toxic lower interest rate bonds and swapping them for higher interest rate bonds or something like that.
That's Fed activity and Fed actions, and none of us know. And I don't want to get into the whole bank. Everybody says,
"Well, I like that you're here to like
they have problems on their books." But I think the Fed, after going through certainly through the 2009 crash and liquidity crisis, different thing, I think hopefully they're pretty well set up when there's a bank that has trouble, because we've had 2 or 3 of them fail and it didn't cause a ripple in the market, but they seem to be able to deal with that. They find a buyer. I don't know what they do with the bad assets. Doesn't matter. Maybe they keep them on their books and
probably. I mean, that's usually what the Fed does now.
They did that to the tune of about $7-8 trillion during the 2008-09. If they're willing to do that, they certainly could take $20 billion from some bank if they have.
I mean, that's basically the Fed's job now. They're not so much like market, a market. How I want to put it. Like,
I'd love to see them get out.
More like the garbage man. They go around and pick up banks' garbage and then.
Trust me. I'd love to see them get out of that business. But as long as it's little, it's not really system wide, and it's little individual. Because I can't remember if it was Republic. One of them, it was a very specialty lender that failed, even though they were big. It was the California one. Was that the First Republic or something? But they were like funding option and crypto guys or something. I mean,
Signature was another big one.
Maybe that was one it was. But I mean, there was 2 of them, but one of them was really involved in pretty high-end loans that they shouldn't have been, and the other one was involved in crypto. Well, that's not a systematic wide thing. So they'll get on that to try to cause it not to be a bigger ripple. And is there going to be commercial real estate issues in the next 10 years? Absolutely. I mean, but I think they have the firepower certainly to at least try to smooth it out. I'm not going to say deal with it, but smooth it out. I think that's what their job is now, like you said. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what they do.
Corex, T-Man wants to know if your T-shirt is Yu Yu Hakusho.
It is indeed.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, all
Matt-
right. You
Matt
win
got
a
it
free
first,
Carmen San Diego cookie. Send Corax your mailing address. Hey, Corax, how long are you suspended on Twitter for?
I don't know. Basically, what it was is I was clapping at BAM Investor because he was clapping at me, and they flagged a couple of my tweets because you know how they are. They're all about, yeah, we're big Trump man, until you slug them in the face and they're like, teacher, don't hit me, don't hit me. And so they've got a couple tweets that they want me to delete. I really don't care about Twitter that much, so I basically told Twitter on the appeal, it's like, yeah, sure, they picked the fight and I finished it, and now I'm in trouble. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not deleting those tweets. So you can keep me suspended all you want to. I ain't deleting them.
Just delete them and move on. Let the crybabies go cry. Hey, I was just gonna say, I'll send you a DM if you get your Twitter back, if you want to dual stream the Fed meeting, the FOMC.
Totally.
I generally live stream them. They're boring. They're boring as hell, but I think it's important for people to have exposure to what the Fed's doing, what the Fed's saying, economic policy. So I try and live stream them. I don't catch every one, but
I don't either. I just happened to pick one of my personal days was this one.
If you're not going to get back on Twitter, just hang out when we end this live stream so I can give you my email address.
Cool.
I know a lot of people think, that we carefully coordinate and talk every day.
Yeah, I know. It's
but I don't talk to really anybody.
Look,
unless
Tony,
you're in my Discord. Huh?
Tony, we need to reinitiate you into Clan Tremere to make sure that you're a loyal participant.
What is Clan Tremere?
Go look up Vampire the Masquerade. Some people got that.
Hey, Corex, before Tony may give you his email. He's probably sorry that I have his now, because any given day I'll send him pages of kind of stream of consciousness stuff that maybe makes perfect sense to me, and I'm sure he looks at it and goes,
well,
what?
I mean, Sparky, I appreciate your info, because like I've said, I'm not a bond expert. I'm trying to get to your level. I'm say that tongue in cheek. I'm saying that tongue in cheek.
Oh, no, I think you're happy to get my screenshot of something viable, and then you look at the next 58 consecutive messages and go.
But I appreciate your expertise, because I'm trying to improve my content related to bonds, because it's an important function of the market for people to understand.
It's just like book value. It's just something else that can confirm. And that's the way I look at it. I'm talking about high yield, like an AMC or GME doesn't have bonds, but let's say they did before they bought them all back. It's just another measure of a completely different asset class that sometimes can confirm your theory, of nothing else, just looking at the movement. In AMC's case, they went from 30 cents on the dollar to 85 cents on the dollar. Well, the bond community at least is much more comfortable now than they were certainly a year ago.
Well, they know they're going to get paid by the share printer.
But that's still, as far as refinances and stuff, shows you there's a chance.
Yeah.
The other thing, Sparky, that I can tell, although you don't always tell us what we want to hear, you try and provide factual information, and you don't hate AMC. You're just a realist, which, as a realist and a finance person by education myself, I did not work on Wall Street, but that was my background in college. As someone who comes from that logical way of looking at things, I appreciate your take on things. And I get it. A lot of times finance and black and white numbers aren't always what we want to hear. So if you see Sparky out there in the comments, guys, go easy on him. He's trying to help you. He's not always going to tell you what you want to hear, but
I
think he's doing his best.
Significantly less than I used to, because I get too snarky. But I still have a couple favorites.
Don't be snarky. Don't be a Corax.
I know. I just can't. I just can't help.
Yeah.
Corax is just like you. There's just some things that get made. I can't help myself.
Woo.
Does he have his fridge in the garage or something?
I don't know.
Going.
Jennifer says, remember when he cussed? Who cussed? Who was it that cussed? I don't remember. And who are we talking about? We're talking about Powell?
Just close the fuck. I have that. I have that on my soundboard on my Discord.
Who was it? Who are they talking about?
Was it J-Pal?
Yeah.
What did he
was at
say?
this thing. Well, one of these protesters showed up at one of his talks, and they were escorting him out when they were on stage, and he's just like, yeah, just close the fucking door. Like he said it in that flat monotone, like Jerome can only do, where it's just like he's not bothered. He's just like matter of factly, just shut the fucking door.
I could never be a public speaker like that, because as much as I want to resist the urge to not drop the F-bomb, sometimes you just got to do it. You know, I am you think, I say a couple curse words here, you should hear me in real life. Like I try and be, this is a family channel, guys. So try and be nice on here, but I'm not so nice in real life. Tubby Tubby says, wild idea. Can GameStop raise billions? Loan AMC $1.5 billion.
All they got to do is buy. They just can help them by buying Hycroft. I'm telling you, that's all they got to do. Just say, hey, okay.
I mean, I get it. I understand people want GameStop to bail out Hycroft or buy Hycroft or buy AMC, loan them money.
Well, maybe the other way around.
No. And I'll tell you why. It's not because I hate AMC or Hycroft. You know that. I want to see them succeed. It would be an idiotic decision for GameStop. The only thing they need to do with their money is figure out how to get profits on the balance sheet, earnings per share through business operations. I don't want them becoming a bank, loaning money to companies that are not profitable. I'm just, look, I can, did you know I could compartmentalize? What is he? He doesn't want GameStop to save AMC. Look, as much as I'd love the idea, I know where you're coming from. You have a good heart, but that would be an idiotic decision for GameStop.
You see, Tony, but I've seen the light. Do you not understand that in the Teddy books, if you look, AMC is
I read all of the Teddy BBBY posts, and it takes every ounce of willpower I have, because I want to help. I want to provide some meaningful contribution to the conversation, but I know they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. So I just read it mostly and just like, what the heck?
With the like the Bed Bath & Beyond people.
What is that noise?
I don't know.
Sounds like somebody had a vacuum or a vibrator go off.
Whoa.
I was checking to see if it was me, but it wasn't. I don't think it was me. Like for me, the Bed Bath & Beyond people have kind of become like the Alex Jones of the meme stock community. It's like, I'm tired of that putting chemicals in the water that turn the frogs gay. It's just like, you just watch it because they're a meme.
Did you see the anti-Semitism going on with Ryan Cohen today?
No.
In the Project Popcorn game, some people sent me screenshots. Of course, now that Ryan has diluted twice, he's getting thrown into the anti-Semitic bus right along with Adam Aaron.
I'm not surprised.
I know
at this point, which is really sad.
You've got to be a conspiracy theorist. You got to be an anti-Semite, and they got usually three characteristics.
You've got the extra crazies and the QAnon crowd, and it's becoming less of one of those and it's just becoming one circle. And instead of like one of those Venn diagrams, it's a circle.
It can't just be that they're managing the long-term success of their company through smart financial decisions. Now it's just, the anti-Semitic theme.
Yeah.
It just makes me literally sick to my stomach that, first of all, that people need to endure any sort of racist comment like that. Second of all, that I got to associate as a fellow investor with horrible people that would say things like this.
Well, at least they haven't gotten to the point where they have with Adam Aaron, where they're trying to connect Adam Aaron to Epstein Island. They haven't gotten to that with Ryan Cohen yet, so hopefully that one stays.
Well, it's coming. It's
coming. Oh, I
coming.
bet, because these people will just get more unhinged as things go along.
It always happens. You know, if the price of GameStop starts coming down and no announcement comes out, you're going to get the violent threats. You know, that the fringe element always reveals themselves eventually if it doesn't go their way. I overpaid for this stock and it's your fault, Ryan.
I'll make sure to keep it on silent mode this time, Six Son. Unfortunately, had.
Hopefully, they don't feel pressure. Or Cohen doesn't feel pressure to go out and make an acquisition just to make one to keep the peanut gallery happy.
Yeah,
I would like to think not, but.
Do you guys think Citron got blown out? I saw an article from him today. He said, I don't know if I can believe him. This Andrew Left, right? He's the head guy at Citron. He said that if GameStop ran to 100, he'd just have a normal weekend because he didn't bite off more than he could chew this time. I don't know if that's correct or not.
Maybe it's him personally. Did he tweet it to the Citron?
It was an interview I saw on the internet. I have no idea if he's blowing smoke or.
Speaking as someone who's sort of tacitly connected to some of those people in that community, like him, Andrew Leftright, he's he's kind of in that stage of his life in that community, the short community, where even some of the short sellers are like, dude, why do you open your mouth? it's like the same thing with what's that one guy that was a short seller. I know I should know his name because he has me blocked because he has a fragile
Cojones.
Yes. Yeah. He's in that kind of territory where he's just kind of a meme of a short seller now.
Mr. Left was definitely talking shit to try and drive the price down. I mean, without a doubt, guys. And you see that from many short sellers. They talk crap. We got to deal with it every day. Sometimes, I mean, there's a kernel of truth in what they're saying, that the price was overvalued.
Yeah, I would say it also
I get that.
It depends on what short seller. Like some of them are malicious. Like we said, Cody's has been accused of it. And some of them, like some of them are actually trying to find criminal enterprises, like the people that were shorting Amron
but even if he was technically correct that the price was being run up far past fundamental value, and he's technically correct, you could see by the increasing communications from Citron that they were getting nervous, right? That they didn't want it to run to 400.
See, I'm in the opposite camp when I'm a short seller. I'm really excited to be like, I won, eat a bag of dicks. When I'm struggling, when it's just like radio silence, I really don't want to talk about this right now.
I think, much like in 2021, he was hoping he could either double down on his bet or hang on and talk it down. And instead of him having to keep doing that, Ryan fucking saved his ass today.
People think they can talk it down at this point because
there was zero chance. There was zero chance he was going to talk it down. If Ryan didn't dilute, Citron would have got fucked.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
And personally, for me, as someone who's done a little dabbling on that side of the thing, it's just I maybe it's just I don't have enough money to get it, but.
That is part of the equation, though, wouldn't you think, Tony? Somebody larger, a large shorter like that. Let's say they're gonna short 20 million, or maybe it's more than that. They're part of their calculation is not only the math, but hey, if this price keeps going, the company should dump a bunch of shares out there. I mean, they're again.
Well, I didn't think about that, but. I mean, that's a good point, right? A short today, maybe.
That's something.
They're much smarter than me. They work on Wall Street. I'm just a dumb cowboy.
I will be honest. That's why I've taken pot shots at AMC a couple times where it's just I know they're going to have to dilute, so I'll be fine.
And I actually think it would apply more to an AMC that has to raise money. GME doesn't have to. They just to do it. But like in an AMC situation, you look at it and say, what, really need to do bond swaps or do cash or whatever every time it runs off. Like if AMC ran back to 10 and stayed there for a couple days, there's no way
Oh yeah, you'd be an
they wouldn't
idiot
sell
not to.
20 million shares or something and raise a couple hundred million.
We haven't talked about that recently, but what basically I think what we're all agreeing is if AMC has a run, the company's going to dilute more. Is that what we're saying?
They have to. Like I said, in GME, it's less certain, but if that was part of the calculation for any of the shorts, not just left, but it's
it depends on what price it gets to, because like you said, eventually with GameStop, even though they didn't need it, it got to a price where it's like, why should I say no to this?
Yeah,
I think that's what happened. I really do. I think, and it'll be interesting where they fill it. They're not going to sell it at 60, but they may have an awful lot of shares sold above 40.
Well, and it could very well be that, like Tony said, there's a chance they might still have some for Monday, and it's not that far down. Like I'm looking at it right now, it's at 27.16 after hours. It could easily get back to 30, and they just go, "That's a great price."
100%.
They're going to sell at the VWAP. So if people are still buying it and it's holding in that 27, 28 range, they'll happily continue selling until they're done. Yeah. And if there's not buyers and the price starts falling, filling that gap back down to the low 20s, they'll still keep selling. But on the average, they're going to sell around the daily VWAP.
I wonder, can they sell shares in after hours? Because that's when the price seems to do all of its wild stuff.
We talked about that. Tony.
Yeah, I don't know that I know the exact.
Because if I was Ryan Cohen and I was told I could, I'd be like, wow, these people are just pumping up to 60. I know there's not a lot of liquidity here, but let's see what I can
pretty sure part of the the offering prospectus and best efforts and all the filings and rules that go into this are you have to sell during normal.
Well, because there's that's the other backhand of after hours is even if you could, would there be enough liquidity to support what you're doing?
That's really the problem, right? Liquidity, volume. There's not enough volume, even if the price is running.
What are they going to
trash the price?
Shares? That doesn't help them.
Yeah. Tubby Tubby says, what would the book value be if GME raised another $2 billion? Around $10. So if they raise $2 billion this time around, you'll have around $4 billion shareholder equity, assets minus liabilities, $4 billion divided by 426 million total new shares outstanding. So roughly $10, give or take. I'll do the exact calculation for you guys when I find out exactly how much they raise, but in that ballpark.
One of these times, and maybe it'll be a fun live stream we can do, is when we're doing one of these stock talk ones, if we just sat down with our screeners and we're all like, hey, here's some cool ideas.
I've been going through this week in my free time, going through my screener, looking for the next value plays. So I'll go through those details, correct? And if you find some stocks, let's compare those. We could do a live stream and
I've been really looking at, because if the Fed is really stuck on this higher for longer thing, you're going to see a lot of these small cap value plays that they're going to be like, we're undervalued here. We're getting pounded because interest rates are just staying at that 5.25. And you get someone who's a willing buyer who's willing to pay it up for a double up and it'd still be a good buy or something like that. That's why I've been really excited with some of these smaller cap companies that I've been looking at, because I really think M&A is the play for this year. If you can find a company that's undervalued compared to where it should be, someone may swoop in and buy it and you get a nice quick double up and you walk away.
The other thing to remember with M&A, because you're talking about that, is the Fed only controls the short end of the curve, and they're sticking at 5.25 or whatever it is.
And it's still inverted pretty well.
This week, and certainly in the last month, the 5 and 10 year, that's where people finance deals. That's come down 50, 60. I mean, it's been 30 this week. It's probably 50 or 60 days. The 10-year Treasury's 4.25 or something. Well, that's, if it's not a high yield, not everything's AMC and it's a 10% deal. If it's a value company, that's especially one that's public and and the acquirer has a rating, they could go borrow 10-year money at 5%
Well,
probably.
what you're talking about is the reason why, while I have quite a few 30 years, going off the face value where I wait for them to cut rates and then I dump it, I still, once they cut, I'm constantly getting these 1 and 2 years, still got a lot of good yield in there.
All the yield on the front, it's amazing what the yield is in the front end. And but that's not, corporate finance doesn't care about the front end. They're somebody financing a big deal between two profitable companies, one thinking the other one's economically cheap, so they're going to buy them.
Yeah,
they're going to go borrow money probably under 5% right now, and that gives them a lot. That gives them a lot of ammo to do it.
The venerable Mr. 670 in the chat's given us some price targets. GameStop $50 on Monday, 60 Tuesday, 70 Wednesday, and Pluto on Thursday.
Could be.
Could be. It could be. Hey, it could be. I'd love to see it move up. But I think, the first thing we need to get out of the way is hearing that the dilution's done.
Dilution's done. And then I think if there's going to be a run up on any of these stocks, it's going to be after Wednesday, because I have a feeling that we all know that the Fed's not doing anything. They're going to keep rates where they.
I know you're very focused on that Fed meeting, but I think GameStop, until Roaring Kitty is done, is unplugged from any rational market analysis.
I'm not saying that all of it's going to go and we're going to go back down to 12, but I do think that it's going to mute things, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's going to stop things, but it's going to mute them.
Michael,
I think the next stop is June 21st, and just see what happens. You'll know pretty quick. Either they're selling them, closing them out, or they're delivering shares, and then the following Monday, if he delivered shares, he's got to.
You guys, you want to know the most bullish thing that I want to see for GameStop? Because even though I did sell last night,
they're fucking doing with their cash.
No, not even nothing related to fundamentals. I talk about fundamentals and financials. Fuck all that for a minute. I sold last night and I finished off my selling this morning when they announced the dilution, and then I rebought at the very end of the day today, and I might buy some more next week. But what I want to see as a momentum trader, guess in the chat. What do I want to see besides a dilution done announcement? What is the number one thing you want to see every day?
Another Roaring Kitty live stream.
Yes, I want to see Roaring Kitty. I want to see him working like a midnight.
You know what I want to see?
I want to see him on the fucking corner hawking his wares.
Roaring Kitty. I want you to email him and say, "Let's do a restream."
Yeah, I will. I'll get him on a fucking live stream. I want to see Roaring Kitty working this bitch. I want to see him live streaming every day and pumping people up. That's what I want to see.
He certainly has more money.
He needs to get some sort of braid going with that hair.
I want to see Roaring Kitty live streaming every day. As a bull, as a momentum trader, wanting to see it go long, that is what we need more than anything else. Nothing else matters, because he is, I don't care what anyone says at this point, indisputable in my mind. He is the catalyst, the unknown catalyst that we've been waiting for.
The black swan.
Yeah, I've been talking for 3 years, not about Evergrande, not about negative beta, all this bullshit people talk about. I've been talking about one thing, the unknown catalyst, something that no hedge fund could predict or plan for, and that was fucking Keith Gill.
Well, and don't forget, they just were able to pre-announce their earnings which weren't awful, but weren't great, with no.
And it doesn't even matter.
3 months.
The earnings were horrible, and it doesn't matter because Roaring Kitty's here.
They bought themselves 3 months.
See, that was the thing I was worried about was those earnings, because the earnings that we got before them and Kirk, the one I'm following, released was Kohl's, and Kohl's was an absolute fucking disaster. And being in a retail play, I was like, am I going to have to stare down that?
I want to see Roaring Kitty live stream every day, and I want to see him buy some more with that free cash. Oh man, shorts will be fucked. I don't know. But that's what I want to see. I don't care about the earnings. I don't care about the FOMC. If you're in GameStop and you're long, you better be praying that guy does some more live streams and some more tweets.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sunday evening we see another tweet.
I hope so. I hope so for everybody's sake. And people say I hate GameStop. They're like the biggest lie out there. Why do people say that I hate GameStop?
They say the same thing about me.
Because they don't want you. They don't want you watching
succeeds,
my channel and actually getting real financial analysis. That's why they lie.
If GameStop succeeds, more power to it. I just think the price right now is so divorced from reality. It's kind of silly. But like if GameStop turns around and does this, more power fucking to Ryan Cohen and the rest of them.
The keys to the kingdom are in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have $4 or $5 billion.
Yeah, they've definitely put the war chest together with. Yeah,
it's literally we're going to have the voting machine on Ryan Cohen's brilliance or not. Now, I have a lot of faith in him. I really, really do. I've always said if I was going to buy GameStop, it would be only because of Ryan Cohen, but the financials weren't quite there for me to buy and hold it. So that's why I've only been trading it for the last couple of years. But
I'm still skeptical on Ryan Cohen, but he's got so much of a runway. He's got cash. I want to see a plan. Just give me a plan. Just give me an idea what you're doing so I can put a reasonable price target in my head, because I realize part of it's the math, the fundamentals we do, but also part of it's an art. And part of that art is Rory Kitty, Keith Gill doing finger paintings on with memes on Twitter. And so,
Neil says, you missed the point. We don't care what you think. I know you don't. I'm very unpopular, right, Neil?
Well, it's a good thing that we also don't care what you think. So
Neil, let me just ask you. Neil and I have a long history going back. Was I right about Bed Bath & Beyond? How many months did you fight me on that, Neil? Can you drop that in the chat? How many months did you argue with me about Bed Bath & Beyond?
As to Anya's question, I think it was part of it. Most of it was the dilution. The other part, I think, was the like.
Oh, he's talking about noisy. Oh, we don't care what you think, noisy.
Oh, good. I don't care what you think. So I guess we're even.
I do love Neil. I know he has a good heart. He's a good guy. And I want to see you make a fuck ton of money in GameStop, Neil.
I hope we all make money. We'll have different trades on at different times, and we all make money.
I'd like to see everybody make money long and get the price that you want. And we know inevitably there's going to be shorts come in when it tops out, and they'll make money on the way down. That is the stock market. So
I need Fidelity to open up their pre-market sooner so I can do what Tony does. I ride it up and then I ride it back down.
Is it hate the game, don't hate the player, or hate the player, don't hate the game? I forget. hate the game, right? The game is Wall Street. You can't hate people for having their own trading style. That's why I have Corex on here, even though he and I have very different trading style and different views on things.
Well, I mean, we have the same fundamental trading style. We have different ways of
we have the same ability to get to the nitty gritty on what the financial analysis is, I think. And we kind of cut through the chaff on the conspiracy bullshit. That's, I would say, what we have in common, but I don't short stocks and you do. So I'm going to draw the line.
I don't even do it that much. Like the only reason I'm doing it is to protect my heavy bond position. Like when TLT tends to tank, stocks tend to tank too. So I use the short to bring in extra cash to cover that TLT position. And then I can use that extra cash to get into, once I close it, to get into plays I want to be long. It's basically the way I look at shorting is I expect the Fed to eventually cut rates. I'll get my face value appreciation on TLT. But until that time, I use that short position on plays that go parabolic. I short it back down. TLT usually comes back down as well with the market. And so I protect my longer dated positions with short-term profits.
Sean says the earnings don't matter. And I agree with you in this 3-week window, the one we just finished, in the next 2 weeks, 100% agree. And I've said that in my Discord. It doesn't matter how crappy Q1 was.
I'd like to hear Sparky's opinion on that.
It was
no,
crappy.
It
doesn't matter to the people willing to overpay for this stock right now.
No, I think I mentioned it just a minute ago. Besides the fact that they wanted to get the announcement, they had to pre-announce earnings in order to get the at-the-market stock. You can't do that and have earnings be bad.
We already knew 2 weeks ago that the earnings were bad. It doesn't fucking matter. Roaring Kitty's here, guys.
But I think they were happy to announce terrible earnings in the middle of total euphoria because it just got buried. I do want to touch on
buried. You're right. It got buried.
I want to touch on something somebody put in the comment. They were talking about the market makers want to run this down so they don't have to pay the options, and that's market makers generally
they just care about the spread.
Market makers are at the end of the day want to go home flat. They're not short these contracts.
Bingo.
I think that is anyone who's talking about market makers worried about their options risk. I want you to go Google options market maker flat risk. I mean, their entire day is spent making sure they go home flat on risk. You guys need to stop listening to these bullshit people on social media saying that the market makers are doing all this. Shorts are doing shit to you. Yeah. High-speed trading firms are doing shit to you. The market makers ain't doing shit to you.
Speaking of high-frequency traders, this is why, like me and Tony, I think that the best strategy is long-term value investing, because these high-speed traders are literally blocks away from the exchange with fiber optic connections. You ain't fucking
not even in blocks. They're in the same fucking room, Corax.
Yeah.
They have
you're not going to beat them.
The exchanges rent out warehouse space so you can park your server 2 feet away from the fucking exchange.
Doing this day trading bullshit, listening to these crap people who have no fucking clue on YouTube. Find a stock that's undervalued based on the fundamentals and trade it long term, because that's how you beat the system.
But high frequency guys, it's the same thing. They're not going home at night short 20 million AMC or GameStack. They're during the course of the day, they're trying to get in front of somebody and make them, they pick up pennies, but they pick up a lot of them. That's
if a market maker is taking on risk, guys, because they took on a trade, the very next thing they're going to do 1 second later is figure out how to hedge that risk. The market makers, they are not exposed unless if something moved crazy, like an atomic bomb dropped or a COVID and the market got obliterated. You could have market makers get wiped out, or like GameStop running from 80 to 400. A market maker is going to get in trouble because they have, their responsibility is to make the market. And if no one's selling and they got to buy, they start getting in trouble risk-wise because they're executing their job. And that's when you get the fucking market halt. So the market maker doesn't go bankrupt, but they don't want to be taking on that unmitigated risk.
Well, and also they're happy. Like, I bet you the Citadels and Virtus of the world are happy about all this volatility in GameStop. That gives them much more pennies to pick up. Like the best way to understand a market maker's operation, we talked about it all year, the arbitrage between APE and AMC. Just imagine that every day on every trade.
You can heap
market maker.
Forget the volatility. Look at the volume.
You can heap all the hate you want.
80 million shares.
Guys, heap all the hate you want on shorts, on high-speed traders. I will never argue with you. But if you're implicating market makers, it just tells me you don't understand their function, or the fact that their intention every day is to remain flat on risk. I'm not a friend of Doug Sifu. I've never talked to Doug Sifu. He's really mean to people on Twitter. I don't like that. But
it's pretty nice if you get him in DMs, though.
Well, I've never DM'd him, so I don't know. I'm just saying. I bring him up because he's a market maker people hate on, and I honestly don't know why he's even involved in social media.
If you guys would like to see pictures of that, he says that he's going to get that if I show up in Manhattan, we'll have a drink. So, like, if you want to donate to my
all of the market makers, and there's a bunch of them.
Add to that conspiracy.
And I even heard Martin. I think it was Martin saying that Sifu is a nobody in the world of Wall Street. I don't know. I don't know enough about these people, but I know what a market maker's job is, and it is to make a market and keep their risk flat so they don't go bankrupt. They're not going to go home with unhedged risk.
Yeah.
That is facts. There are people pushing an agenda to you on social media, and I have yet to see them provide any evidence backing up all these claims they're making. But short hedge funds, high-speed traders, they are fucking us over daily.
Yeah.
Fucking us over daily.
And usually it's by choice. Like, again, we talk, if you be a smart investor, you find good companies for the long term. It's why I open with that that clip that I do on Prince's Amount Stupid from, oh gosh, I know I should know his name, where it's like I want to convince people there's reasons why stocks go up. It's because you're investing in a good company for the long term. And like that's, I think, at the end of the day, what I try and teach, what Tony tries to teach, that like Peter Lynch, if you like listen to his stuff, like that type of trading is how you get the edge on because like you don't have the edge on these like quick trades because you're always going to get beat. So the only way to beat Wall Street is to find undervalued stocks that people ain't looking at, getting in while it's cheap, and cashing out while the getting's good.
Big 57 says
momentum, and you hope you're right more than you're wrong. You can do that too. You just you're gonna have some losers, but you hope you have more winners than losers when you're just trading momentum stuff.
Sean's got a good question. I want to get to Big 57 first. He says, who's getting into the GameStop play at this price? I got in at the end of the day today. Anybody who's willing to speculate a little bit now that the price has come down to a little more reasonable level and is going to, like I am, gamble on Roaring Kitty over the next 2 weeks. There's and a lot of fanatical investors that maybe wish they had bought more before the run up to 60. There's a lot of people willing to buy at this price. I think that almost the entire 75 million shares will be bought up by speculators and retail traders. I don't think that it's
Right.
maybe some shorts, but it's mostly going to be us that's buying those shares.
Yeah, that's
I
not going to go
eagerly
into
await
index funds or anything.
Sean's question. I already got preloaded my answer to that.
Sean says, do you think RK's credibility will fall over time? What do you think?
I wouldn't call it credibility. I would think the more he exposes himself, like these live streams are always going to have like diminishing returns. So the less that he exposes his, people want that pump, but the more that you do that pump, the less it's going to be each time he does it. So it's one of those things that I wouldn't call it credibility. I would call it the hype behind his
I would call it the effectiveness.
Yeah.
So we were actually talking about this daily.
And I'll forgive you, Sean, for spelling Sean the wrong way.
Remember that week where he was tweeting every day and the frequency got more and more, but the price kept falling more and more. And we were noticing that and talking about it in the Discord. Is like the more this guy tweets, the less effective he is.
Yeah.
Act like you're on a first date, Keith. Keep a little bit of mystery there. You start over delivering.
When you score a touchdown, act like you've been in the end zone before.
Well, I mean, I think he had a plan and he just executed his plan and he didn't really think about the ramifications. But the more he tweeted, it didn't have the intent.
That's why I think this week the only thing you saw was that one tweet on Sunday and then the live stream.
I think he learned, yeah. And I'm being a little facetious when I said he should live stream every day, but he should keep in contact with us over the next 2 weeks. Keep just enough, give him just enough, Keith.
Keep enough interest, but not so much that you're over expressing your brand.
Yep.
Because the minute you do, the minute the hype goes.
Neil says he bought more at 28. All right, Neil, I'm right in there with you. And he sold a bunch of puts at 25. Good luck on those. I think that's a reasonable bet. Yuka says, do you think the offering is done? I don't think it's done today, Yuka, but I think it could be done.
I'm with Tony that it's probably going to be done by at least Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
You don't know what they got done today, but with that level of volume, they certainly had the opportunity.
They had a bunch of volume to hide their selling in.
We'll know. I mean, if it's done, we'll know Monday morning, but I don't have any way of telling you for sure. Just my gut feeling says
it may be that they're done Monday and they announce it Tuesday.
Yeah, my gut feeling says two, maybe 3 days. At this volume, if this volume keeps up on Monday, they could finish it on Monday. They might already be done. We'll see. I don't know. But I think it'll be done really, really quick. Michael says RK knows something. Why else would he take short-term options? I mean, that's a great question. We have a lot of debate about that in the Discord too.
I think people are reading too much into that. I think they're short-term options because he's got all this money and he's like, why not? Let's go to the roulette wheel. Give me a couple good spins.
Now, Corax is not on my Discord, and I haven't really talked to him this week about Roaring Kitty, but that is the exact conversation that we had, Corax, and my my friends in the Discord that are experienced traders. We also think that he is YOLOing it without much of a plan. And
he's got money and he's bored.
I personally think he does not know anything. I think that he does not know anything. There's no master plan. He was YOLOing.
I mean, you watch his live stream and you can see that. Like, given, again, I'll say, like I said before, the company hasn't given him much to talk about, but the way he sounded, this isn't like his older streams where he's talking about the value investing side of things. He's just talking about, I'm here to have fun, more or less. I mean, that's what I took away from it.
And there's no problem with that. I'm not negging on him. Like, by his sheer presence, he is moving this stock, and that is good enough. I don't think he has a master plan other than maybe he thought if he put out some memes that this thing would run, and hey, YOLO. I literally think that's his plan, because we've been watching him, Corex, over the last couple of weeks, right? He's a very intelligent, methodical value investor, great at analysis. This is very out of character for someone that fits that pedigree.
For sure.
And I think he's YOLOing. He's YOLOing. No master plan. That is my opinion. And he might be crazy enough to pull it off.
Well, if it finishes
either way, he'll still be a millionaire.
If it finishes at 27, he still makes 2 points on the 12 million. That's not a bad deal.
If GameStop announces some earth-shattering announcement, then I will say I was wrong. Somehow Keith knew, but I think he's just YOLOing. And if I'm wrong, that's cool. And I hope he wins, and I hope all of you win, and I hope I'm right. I hope I'm riding it with you. Dan says, this is why I limit my live streaming. I want to keep my integrity. I shred my credibility every day that I go on live stream.
I just do live streams because it's easier. Like I've been getting more work, more hours at work, and it's easier rather than spending this time doing an edited video, especially the kind of edited videos I like, where I like to make it kind of a show. That takes hours, and so it's really easier to just, like we're doing right now, come on, have a live stream, get some alcohol in you, have a good time.
Yeah, for me, it's just having a good time and getting to chat with you guys and have conversation. Get your questions in real time. Blue Sky says, how would he know anything? That would be insider trading. Exactly. That's why I think there is no master plan. He doesn't know anything. He is YOLOing. YOLO. If he knew something, and he's a smart guy,
I think he would have been quiet and just made money.
Yeah, he would go to jail, and I don't think he's a dumb man. He might be a little bit crazier than me with the YOLO, but I don't think he's stupid. And I don't think,
especially since after making all that money on the first go around, and he was in front of Congress and everything, you have to think if he did know something and was trading it, that people are watching.
People will say someone told him about the 83 billion of swaps that UBS is worried about. I don't know. I don't even believe in that in the first place. And even if there were swaps, I don't think that people understand exactly how those.
What a swap is.
I mean, a swap is a derivative bet on an underlying. I don't really think people understand what they're talking about. When
and it's between two people.
Exactly. It's not directly going to affect the ticker trading. So I'm trying to be quiet and be nice, but my humble opinion is 99.9% of the people talking about swaps don't really
look. It's in the name. I'm not going to be humble about it. Stop being an idiot.
They don't really know swaps like they think they do. Now, I'm no swap expert, but I have read Reddit once or twice. I have done my own DD, and I have my own opinion. That's my opinion, that those people are incorrect. The swaps may exist. They might exist. I think it's still meaningless to this play. And if anything, look at what happened when, what was his name? That Tiger Asia dude, the Bill Huang. What happened when his swaps unwound? They fucking what'd the banks do? Sold off all the shares. It had a negative effect on all the underlying, if anything. Yuka says, on your next stream, can you show up with crutches and a Band-Aid? Yeah. Maybe. I'm still waiting for the day I can wear the Hulk Hogan outfit, Yuka. 8 Go Green says, live stream was important to be sure his account was not hacked. Yes. Thank you for saying that. That was the most important thing of what he did and I had my own questions about that. Probably like you guys did. Was it really him? Did he sell his account? Of everything that happened today, that was the most meaningful thing to me. We got to see his face.
Yep.
We got to know that it was him, that he's been spending his free time making memes, and he wanted to.
I mean, heck, if I had millions of dollars, I'd be spending my free time making memes too.
Oh, there's no question. I'd love to try it anyway. It's in my mansion someplace.
Why did he say, why did he threaten E-Trade and talk about blanking their logo out? He's probably a little pissed. He's probably a little pissed that his name's being dragged through the mud by the regulators and by E-Trade.
I don't think he threatened. I think he was just like, I think like if they did,
you think his feelings are hurt?
Maybe a little.
I mean, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed if my broker was on national news saying, well, we don't know if we want to keep him as a client. Because what? You put some memes out?
Personally, I wouldn't have been, no, this may be me. I wouldn't have been too butthurt about it because I know that E-Trade, if they're saying something like that, they're getting pressure to like, hey, look into this dude, or, we'll look into you. So it would have been one of those things. It's like, if E-Trade's saying shit, they're saying shit because like, whatever.
I guarantee
if
you.
E-Trade dumps me, I'll go somewhere else and I'll be their problem. But
you want to hear my little conspiracy theory? There were some big money shorting this play that were not happy that Roaring Kitty showed up, and they started calling all their regulator friends and E-Trade and anybody in power that they could to shut this fucking guy down.
Yeah.
I would go to the mat.
It's possible, but I think that regardless, when he showed up and started memeing and the stock ran, I think it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, but
maybe it contributed, but I think
nobody cares except someone who's losing money. And who do those people know? People in power. So I think that some phone calls were made. Shut this fucker down. I think that is not even much of a stretch of a conspiracy theory. That's just like how Washington and New York work. They didn't want to see it run to 400. And so
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying it's irrelevant. I think the SEC was going to look into him anyway.
I wouldn't be shocked if somebody has contacted him from SEC or somewhere along the way in the last 3 weeks. I mean, not aggressively,
especially when you talk about the live
or anything
stream
else, but just say, hey, make sure make sure you're doing, if you're going to do all this stuff, make sure you're,
not doing something stupid, because we really don't want to be. That's the thing we were talking about is like before, this most recent week on one of my live streams, we're talking about all the options activity in GameStop leading into this. And I think like someone at the SEC would already know in advance that he's the one that was buying all those options. And they're like, look, you do you, but just don't be stupid. We'd hate to have to come calling.
I 100% agree that at some point somebody got a hold of him and say, just, do this, have your fun.
Because at the end of the day, I think we can all agree what he's done so far. While it, like, some people may have moral gripes about him gambling and I want to say manipulating, like pushing the stock, pumping it, that there's some moral things that people might have gripes with, but to point, he has not done anything that would be characterized as illegal.
Not in my opinion, he hasn't.
No, and you watch his stream. I watched it just to see what he was going to say, not that he was going to have any magic information.
He was very circumspect about what he did say.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, and it followed along the lines of, at least the cadence and what he talked about originally. He didn't go off on any crazy, unprovable tangents where somebody could say, "See, you're."
I personally wish he would have said more to deal with some of these conspiracy people that me and Tony have gripes with. But
I wanted to hear him talk about naked shares and synthetics and DRSing your shares, but again, not one mention of that. I mean, this is not part of his theme.
I think that was a big point. Is you can glean a lot from what he didn't say, and like Tony said. But I wish. My only wish is that he would have, like, this stuff. It's kind of like we've been looking at his past streams, like when he said that, like, it's really cool, and like he even made it the topic of the title of the last one we went over, that the short interest is really high. But he said that's like an ancillary thing, like the real. He said it.
He called the short interest a sideshow. Now we're not. I
really wish he said something like that towards some of this.
I mean, I don't even get that. We're what, in October 2020 on our last review of his due diligence, and short interest is 140%, and he's calling it a sideshow. I wouldn't. Anything for me over 20% is excited. I don't know how you would be analyzing a play.
But like that gets back to he's a fundamental investor, and that kind of was like, I'm not saying that what he did was wrong. I just kind of wish that he'd kill. It's the same sort of thing that I have with like Ryan Cohn. It's like what he's doing, I don't think is illegal. I don't think it's wrong. I just wish he'd do more to like shut up these. Like, you're not going to shut them up, but for the normies that are watching at home, slap these people down, please.
Which people?
The conspiratorial assholes.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. There's too many people, that have built their world around believing
their identity.
Around believing this stuff. And I'm more of a, if it's not working and we don't have evidence, pivot and move on, figure out how to profitably trade. Life goes on, and we'll work to continue pushing for market transparency, but I don't got time to
look, I'm a libertarian, but I'm always open to like more transparency in markets. And I know that this would drive a lot of my libertarian friends insane, but I do think that the SEC serves a legitimate purpose.
Was that a Berkshire IPA? Was that what he was drinking?
I don't know. It was green. He said the bottle.
Interesting. That's why the BBBY people got all they got super excited after that live stream. Look, he's telling us that GameStop, Ryan's going to buy Bed Bath & Beyond, and we're going to have Gameshire Berkaway or whatever name they come up with. Gameshire Stopaway, I think.
Oh my goodness.
Michael says no conspiracies. Lots of people buying the stock will move the stock. That is literally the most simple and logical. All you need to know, Michael. You're exactly right. That's all we need. We need enough people buying any stock, to move the price and convince the shorts that it's not a good play to keep trying to put the fire out, let them get out of the way, and then it becomes what is the game where you want to get out before the next guy, Corax?
Musical chairs. I like to call it the greater fool fallacy.
You just got to be smart on your exit, because at some point the shorts, you're not competing against the shorts. You're competing against each other. Yeah. P-Dub says last time he went after naked shorts. This time, did he? I mean, we're only in our series up to October, and I haven't heard him mention naked shorts yet. And maybe, I'm not claiming to be a Keith Gill expert. That's why I'm doing the series, but.
And more to his point, like, I hate this misunderstanding about naked calls. Naked calls are not naked shorts. Naked calls are perfectly illegal. You're just saying that you're writing a call without the underlying shares.
It's saying that you have the collateral to pay for those naked calls too. Guys, you cannot write a naked call without collateral. This is a non-issue.
And brokers are very strict about it because there's a lot of risk with writing naked calls.
That's like, what that issue.
I wish I could write it on some of these stupid options that people are buying, but my broker does not treat me like an adult.
That's actually what drives me a little crazy about some of the commentary. And again, I don't interact too much with some of the knuckleheads anymore, but having worked for as many years as I did, there's a daily end of day, every broker, every dealer, all these guys, they're looking at what they're not, it's not the brokers that are naked shorting anything, and they're making sure they have the capital and the collateral and whatever they need multiple times a day, not just at the end of the day.
I keep coming back to the like Savvy case. I know I like to pick it up like a really used penny, but like the people that, like, if you read closely into the complaint the SEC filed against Savvy, the complaints were coming from the brokers. The brokers were constantly calling Savvy. It's like, where are your fucking locates?
Yeah.
We're in the hot seat. Where are your fucking locates?
Yeah.
This doesn't count.
I've seen that same type of comment from other people I don't even know in the industry. Like, if people really knew how much they're on our ass to get the counterparty deliverable. I think, Sparky, you were talking about that sometimes.
Yeah, they can do. I don't remember what the number of days are. I mean, there's different rules, and they may have changed since I was doing it. But they have what they call a buyout. After a certain number of days of a fail, that person that's being failed to has the right to go buy shares or bonds at whatever price it is, and then they charge that difference to the person failing to them. And I mean, it could turn into a lawsuit, but that's.
Maybe I need to get my Twitter back, because what would be a really great conversation, Tony.
I don't remember.
If I could get compliance department on here with Sparky. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I know of him. I've never talked to him,
but like compliance department, he has that Twitter user handle because that's what he used to do. And I think,
if you get in touch with him, find out if he'd like to come talk on the show. A lot of these Twitter people don't want to come talk. But I'm happy to have him on because he has some specific experience, and definitely more than I do in certain areas. What else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say, I do think that there are strategic fails. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But it's not just a Wild West atmosphere out there. And a lot of people don't understand that something can stay on the FTD list for a long time because you have multiple parties failing, even though one clears up their fail.
What we see is the aggregate. What the SEC cares about is the individual fails. So if they complete that they cover that fail the next day, then that doesn't matter to the SEC. But you may see a whole new list of fails. All we see is the aggregate.
And we don't get the level of detail. That's a transparency thing I'd like to see fixed. Tell us who's failing. What is their quantity? How did they clean it up in a regulated amount of time? Then someone else failed. That's the transparency I want.
You're concerned about the FTDs, which I think is a good and important thing. Even as a short
seller, they don't factor into my day-to-day.
Right. But it would be good to have them.
It'd be good to have more transparency just to allay people's fears or misunderstandings, if anything.
Right. And my big thing that I think would be cool, even as a short seller, it would help me understand a position better, is if the short interest was not this monthly or weekly update thing. It was updated daily, so we knew what was going on.
Absolutely. That'd be another great thing to have.
Even as a short seller, that'd be great information to have, because I would have a real-time indicator of how much my risk is in this position.
It's institutionally designed regulatory obfuscation. They don't want us having that level of detail, because then they don't have the edge over us. It is really unfair. It's really unfair. We're going to go. Well, I was going to say we're going to go to the top of the hour, but it is the top of the hour. Let me see if I have any other good questions here, because I haven't even eaten dinner yet, and it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I need to at some point. I keep shoveling this alcohol with no food.
I just thought of what the term is. It's called a buy-in. So that doesn't matter if it's stock or bond. If you've been failing for more than X number of days, the receiving party is allowed to issue you a buy-in. at which point you have to produce shares, or they're allowed to go to the market and buy them and basically charge you the difference in whatever the price is. And that does get settled. It's not like, oh, we just push that under the rug. I mean, if you're a registered broker dealer or even a registered fund, you have to have those things cleaned up. You can't just ignore
and all these things that people talk about, like with the derivatives, like again, going back to the Savvy case, they had convertible securities, and they're like, that's not a locate. So whenever I hear about these tokenized securities or whatever fucking bullshit, no, that's not a locate.
Yeah,
that don't work like that.
First to the Moon has a good question. He says, what about shorts marked as long to be fine for later? There's undeniably trades that are accidentally or purposely mislabeled. And we know that's a fact because we see companies get fined for it all the time. To what extent it is purposeful or targeting specific plays that is retail is in, I don't know. It's not something I spend a lot of time personally worrying about. Could it be happening? Absolutely.
And as far as that is concerned, I tend to fall more with Halon's razor, never attribute to malice that which can easily be explained by stupidity. More often than not, it's accidental labeling, and they get fined because it's a statutory issue where you didn't follow the rules.
The only thing I've never understood on that, and I'm not an expert on this, is the pressure. They say, oh, it's shorts, long sales versus short sales are obfuscating. Well, it's still shares sold in the market. Whatever, it's either a buy or a sell, whether it's labeled right or not. It's the volume is going out. So you'd like to not see people do it, but I don't think it should.
Right. And at the end of the day, like it's nice to know if it was initiated by a buyer or a seller, but at the end of the day, all transactions are buyers. There is a buyer and there is a seller.
Right. No, but you know what I'm saying? I absolutely don't think anybody should be allowed to not say what it is if they're supposed to, and they get fined for it. But if somebody's selling 50 million shares in the market, and the price of the buyers is determining the price, it really doesn't matter that later in the day they wrongly said it was a short sale versus a long sale. It still was pressure into the market of shares going in. That's my look at it anyway. So
I'm going to say this about FTDs, and I've watched 100 plays over the last 3 years that retail's interested in where they're screaming about FTDs, including GameStop and AMC. It's an interesting data point to me. I've seen it even when the FTDs are high or the stock is on the FTD list for a long time. I've seen it be non-meaningful like 99 times out of 100, which is why I stopped talking about it. And I think it's a crutch for social media people and YouTubers to use because they don't know what else to say. That's where I'm at with FTDs. It's an interesting data point. You should pay attention to it. You should not be telling people to buy a stock because of T plus 35.
Right. Yeah, that's in being on the threshold list, I think there is some small ramification to that. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but
it means that the supply is tight and people are failing. I think that's an interesting data point. People attributing dates in 35 days.
Well, that was the
this
thing
is going to squeeze. Fucking shut up.
Well,
you
that's
guys
the thing
putting out this bullshit.
Well, not just that, but that was the thing that was put up when we first looked at Al from Boston's live stream. We had Algo Hack on, and it's like when you talk about FTDs, those time periods, again, because we're only getting aggregate data,
right?
But also, the SEC only cares about intentionality. Were you going to deliver those shares? If you were, and you eventually did, or are going to, that doesn't matter. What matters is you sold with no intent.
You could have 100 parties. You could have 100 parties failing sequentially. Day one, party one fails, clears it on day two. But day two, party two fails, clears it on day three. Day three, party three fails, clears it on day four. You could be on the FTD list for 100 days and never once did anybody violate a rule.
Yeah,
right.
This is what people don't understand.
Like
you can't calculate dates off this list. And I'm talking to all the social media and YouTubers. You need to stop fucking telling people this T plus 35 XYZ event is going to happen because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't even understand how FTDs work. Or if you did, you wouldn't be giving them dates. It's bullshit. It's an interesting data point to know that there's a supply issue. I get it. I agree. I watch it. I'm not going to ever give somebody a date based on an FTD list. That is setting people up to fail.
And really, the FTD list usually tells, like you said, either a liquidity issue or a story. Like there were a bunch of people talking about the FTDs. Oh my God, in AMC last year, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I can go back to the date. I can go back and look at the data point. And every time that there was an FTD issue, it was timed with something that had to do with the Delaware lawsuit.
Well, that or the big stretch was obviously the APE AMC conversion. And yeah, it was 50 million shares for 2 or 3 days. Well, think of operationally, you had something that was trading in incredibly high volume, had everybody scrambling to get the right shares to the right thing and high volume. And within a week, it was cleaned up.
Yeah. And I just want to say, when I said the word liquidity issue, I meant a share liquidity issue, right? There's a lot of thrashing of volume. You'll see FTDs go up on high volume days because there's just a lot of
day traders.
There's a lot of plumbing bullshit paperwork going on. Paperwork, electronic. There's the more volume you have, the more fails you're going to have.
It's shares bounce around like ping pong.
Well, yeah, we're at T+1 now, but like even during the T+2 days, if Tony buys AMC shares and sells them before the end to me, and then I sell them on to Sparky, congratulations, you just created 2 series of FTDs based on the T+2 system.
Yeah, so that's why I just don't make a big deal about it, and I wish other people wouldn't, but I can't control other people. All I can do is control what I talk about. And you notice I don't talk about it. That's by design. But if you ask me a question, I'll give you my opinion. And I know it's going to make a lot of people angry. It's not what you're used to hearing. But I'm angry at everybody that's talking about it. So thank you for allowing me to vent. What else? And the same general comment for anybody talking about short exempt volume or off exchange volume. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Just stop. You don't even understand what you're talking about. All right. On that beautiful, friendly note, I love you guys. Viewers, subscribers, mods, thank you for hanging out. Corex, thank you for joining us. And Sparky, thank you. Cheers. I wish I had something left to cheers with. Oh, I got one little scoop.
There you go.
I don't hate GameStop. I want to make that very clear. I'm long again. I sold last night and this morning. I rebought at the end of the day today. If it drops a little bit, I might screw around with it next week. I think there's a,
hey, if the run up waits until after Fidelity After Hours works, maybe I'll be long too.
I think there's a good probability if Roaring Kitty stays engaged with the community and we get a GameStop dilution done notice in relatively short order. I can't guarantee the price is going to go up, but I think there's a reasonable enough probability for me to speculate with a risk managed position. I'm not betting my house on GameStop. I'm betting a portion of the winnings that I just made. And I've left plenty of dry powder in those winnings to just, have other things to do with it next week. I bought some blue chips. I bought some other plays. Got cash, and I'll just tiptoe into it. And so don't ever think when I'm talking about fundamentals or fair value that I'm saying that's my target price. No, I never have said that $7 was a target price for me. Might be Michael Pachter's target price. I want you just to understand how Wall Street is looking at fair value or fundamental value so you can know when things are getting out of whack, why the shorts are shorting it, when Ryan Cohen's most likely to dilute. The farther we get away, the more bad things are going to happen that aren't going to go the way you want. And so it's just good to have some foundational understanding. When you got people on YouTube telling you it's fundamentally worth $50, that shit pisses me off because they don't know what they're talking about. And no one with any financial training is going to tell you that GameStop's fundamentally worth $50. It might be down the road when they get some profits, when they get some profits and do an acquisition and can show us that they have a PE ratio that demonstrates $50 is a reasonable price, then hey, I'll make those videos every day. All I care about right now is for momentum traders that you understand the disparity in the market between fundamental value and the current market price so you can make good trading decisions. The people that want to listen to the pumpers, I can't help them. If they believe $50 is the fundamental price, they're already too far gone for me. And they've been told to hate me because I hate GameStop. That's horseshit.
Hey me tomorrow.
They don't want you watching me because I speak too much truth. That's all I can say.
Hate me so you can find what's good for you.
I wish everybody
some Blue October going, guys.
I wish you luck in your trades next week. I'll do a video in the morning on the AMC vote. If anything else happens exciting in GameStop, I'll do that. But I want to get some DD done on these new value plays that I've identified 4 of them and get some videos out for you guys on that. So stay tuned. Sparky, you got any closing words?
No, I enjoyed. I thank you for the quick invite. I'm happy to jump in when I can. So
I appreciate you. I tried to coordinate with Massalorian and Mediocre today, but they're both out of pocket. So we'll get them on another live stream.
I'm happy I could fill in for the pros. So that's
I appreciate your commentary and your expertise. Corax, any final thoughts?
You know, I'm really interested to see what next week looks like. Like I said, I'll be doing the FOMC live stream. So if you've got nothing to do Wednesday in the afternoon, you know where it's at. Maybe Tony will show up. Maybe Sparky will show up. Maybe some other people will show up. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Eduardo says, Tony, you lean too much on fundamentals to justify when you're wrong. I don't know what I did wrong. He says you're scared to go with your gut. I bought GameStop on Monday and Tuesday at $28, $29. And
got more guts than I do.
That I would say, knowing that I know the fundamental value is far below that, I would say that took a fair amount of guts. And you know what else I did? I went with my gut and I booked a fucking badass profit last night and this morning at $60 and $43. So to say that I don't go with my gut, you don't know who I am. You don't know how I trade.
You don't know Jack.
You don't know jack shit. I am a day trader. I'm a momentum trader. I just don't do it with unreasonable portions of my portfolio. Not a YOLOer of all of my money in one money losing stock. Okay? Can we at least get on the same page here? You don't know anything about me if you're saying shit like that. But stick around. Be respectful. Have some conversation. I'm happy to share. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. We love you. We want the best for you. We want to see you make some successful trades, and we want to celebrate, much like I'm going to be celebrating all the money I made on GameStop this week. I want to see you guys celebrating right here with me. That's all I care about.
We're ending at a good time. I hear the thunder rolling in the background.
Have a good night, everybody. Gentlemen, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move